Welcome to the November 28th board meeting. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Trustee Williams.
Present.
Trustee Russo.
Present.
Trustee Torres.
Present.
Trustee Zamore. Trustee McOwen.
Present.
Trustee Ning. Trustee Jaros.
Here.
Trustee White.
Yep.
Trustee Saunders.
Here.
Trustee Zamore.
Present. Okay.
Quorum is present, ma'am.
Stall for what? Okay. We're waiting for someone to come in.
That's right, okay.
Oh, there he goes. Okay. Right now, we'll take communications from the public.
Then we're going to do the Nightlight Award
Want to do the awards? Okay, so we'll do the superintendent's report now.
Okay, good evening, all. This evening, at the top of my report, we are going to present the Nightlight Award. And tonight is a very special night for our school district and our community. Since my first day here, I'd like to acknowledge Senator Klein, Assemblyman Pretlow, and Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson, who have been some of the most ardent supporters and proponents of our school district. I speak with each of their offices on a regular basis, and they're always checking in to see what our needs are and how they might be able to assist us in transforming our school district. They have been tireless advocates for our students. They have lobbied on our behalf in Albany, ensuring that our schools receive the funding that we need. They have ensured our students have the tools and resources necessary to be successful. So tonight, it is my honor to present each of them with the Nightlight Award. The Nightlight Award is presented to members of the Mount Vernon community that exemplify the qualities of a Mount Vernon Knight, including courage, justice, mercy, generosity, faith, nobility, and hope. The award is intended to spotlight people or groups that have a positive impact on the district and its students. Each of this week's recipients have contributed to the progress and well-being of Mount Vernon through a variety of projects. I can think of 3 people so deserving tonight that Senator Klein, Assemblyman Pretlow, and Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson are most deserving of this honor. So Senator Klein, I will begin by saying that in May of 2015, Senator Klein secured a state-funded grant to cover the cost of renovating the playground and the baseball field at Pennington Elementary School. The new playground structure includes all new surfacing and play equipment and is suitable for up to 50 students at a time. Additionally, he has secured and recently supported a $250,000 grant for a community school program at Mount Vernon High School. The Senator has also agreed to co-sponsor our Mount Vernon Classroom Heroes, which is our teacher recognition program, which I'll discuss later this evening in my superintendent's report. So it is with my deep sense of gratitude that I present the Nightlight Award to Senator Jeff Klein, and it reads as follows. The Mount Vernon City School District presents the Nightlight Award to Senator Jeffrey D. Klein for his outstanding support and dedication to the Mount Vernon City School District, presented November 28, 2017. And I'll ask Senator Klein and President Adrian Saunders to join me at the podium.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. This certainly means a lot to me as someone who graduated from the public school system. I believe all of us have a duty to make sure not only this generation, but future generations get a great public education. You know, I've represented parts of Mount Vernon now for 12 years and always have been very engaged in our public school system. I think we've done a lot of great things together. And my time in the Senate was also spent partnering with a great lady who represented us very, very well, and I know we miss her each and every day, Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson. And it's always been a pleasure to partner with Gary Pretlow, our outstanding Assembly member, who's sharing this award as well. You know, we've done a lot of great things for the schools in Mount Vernon, but one thing I'm very excited about, and the superintendent mentioned it, is the community school concept. I was able to start several community schools in the Bronx over the last several years. And if you don't know, a community school is an absolutely fantastic thing. It sounds very simple, but unfortunately we haven't done enough of them. It makes the school the focal point of a community. And if you think about it for a moment, that's what a school should be. We have to engage the merchants. We have to engage all types of businesses, not-for-profits, the parents, the teachers, in making the school the very best it could be. It has programs like mental health programs. It has dental programs. It has English learning classes for adults and the kids, chess clubs, you name it. And it also keeps the school open till sometimes 8, 9 o'clock at night. To make sure there's meaningful after-school programs. This was something that was really founded by UFT in New York City, but I fought over the last couple of years in saying it just can't be in New York City. We got to get it in Mount Vernon. And I'm very proud to report, after negotiating with both NYSED and UFT, we're finally going to get our very own community school here in the great city of Mount Vernon, which is something that's very important. So thank you all. And I know all of us are invested, whether it's our outstanding school board, our parents, but most of all, we do it for our kids, and they deserve the very best. Thank you all.
And next, much like Senator Klein, Assemblyman Gary Pretlow has helped secure state funding for recreational projects within the Mount Vernon City School District. In July of 2015, Assemblyman Pretlow announced the allocation of $1 million necessary in order to make repairs to the Mount Vernon High School pool. When we first met, the first thing he said to me was, "How can I help?" I shared with him that it was my dream to restore the Mount Vernon High School swimming pool, and he made that a commitment at that very meeting. And the pool that had been closed since 2010 became a major initiative and project through the support of Assemblyman Pretlow. The capital project secured by Assemblyman Pretlow allowed Mount Vernon to bring the pool to compliance and all applicable rules and regulations. The district plans to provide year-round swimming lessons to Mount Vernon residents and offer training programs for students interested in serving as lifeguards, which was something that was particularly important to Assemblyman Pretlow. So we're excited to see this project come to fruition. Next Monday, December 4th, we will finally unveil the new swimming pool with the ribbon-cutting ceremony. And Assemblyman Pretlow, thank you for all that you've done on behalf of Mount Vernon City School District, and it is my honor to present the Nightlight Award to you for your dedication.
Good evening, everyone. I, like Senator Klein, want to do everything possible for this great school district. Mount Vernon School District is, it's in my heart. And when I first met our superintendent, we did have that conversation. I said, "What do you need?" And he told me, and I said, "I'm going to do it." And we did it. Now, most of you who know me know that I do a lot of things that no one ever hears about. A lot of things have happened in this city that, I did, but I never attached a string or anything to any of the projects that I've worked on. But this was the first time I actually attached a string. And that string is that the school district offer free swimming classes to all Mount Vernon residents, at least for 1 year, that want to learn to swim, and we train young men and women to be lifeguards, which is something they can do over the summers. And because, I still can't swim. It was selfish of me because I actually want to be the first one to jump in that pool to learn how to swim. I've been doing some research lately. I found out that, a majority of the pirates back in the 1600s couldn't swim. The pirates couldn't swim, and they were jumping from ship to ship and flailing their swords around, but if they fell in the water, they went straight to the bottom. Well, I know we have no pirates in Mount Vernon, but I want to have a city of swimmers. The majority of the people in Mount Vernon are people of color, and the majority of people of color can't swim. I want that to change, and I think with this initiative, it is going to change. I look forward to Monday. I know they changed the ribbon cutting and moved it up a couple of days because we're scheduled to be in Albany next week. For what reason, I have no idea. But we are scheduled to be in Albany next week, and I'm glad that you moved the date, Mr. Superintendent. I look forward to it. And, what I can say is, go Mount Vernon, go Knights. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, what can I say about Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson? She has been a staunch supporter of the district and readily available to assist in any way possible, and I can honestly say she has become my friend. Graham Elementary School unveiled a new expansive park and play area in June of 2017. This $2.5 million project was partially funded by a $1 million grant secured by former Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson, which helped to power the 2020 vision. The park, which has been built in a lot adjacent to Graham School, includes a new soccer field, 3 playground equipment stations, 2 oval walking paths, raised garden beds, as well as new landscaping and a new parking lot. Ruth Hassel Thompson has also secured funding for the Little Hands Children's Center, a daycare program at the Mount Vernon High School. And even though she is no longer in the Senate, she continues to be a supporter and someone I can call upon for ideas and talk to about initiatives and get her input as a Mount Vernonite who has had my back since I've been in the district. So I'm honored to present the Nightlight Award again to Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson for her outstanding support. We didn't get a picture.
Thank you. To the superintendent and to the board and to the residents of this community. I'm not feeling very well right this minute. I'm not sure what's going on with me, but I am very pleased to be receiving this award, and I'm very excited about, I think, the change that is beginning to happen in the city of Mount Vernon. As one of the 3 members tonight, I'm the only one who actually went through public schools in the city of Mount Vernon and have lived here. I'm 3rd generation, raising 2 generations of public school, partially public school members in the second 2 generations behind me. Mount Vernon is a very unique place, and I've heard criticisms of those of us who live here and who have spent a lot of our life here, because they said, I heard the comment, we think we're privileged. Well, I think we are. And I think we have every right to feel as though we are, because I'm looking over the audience and I'm looking at some young people, they're young to me, who I've helped to raise in this community and whose parents helped to raise me in this community. And that's what we did to each other and for each other. And I would like to believe that what we're doing here tonight is a new step in the direction of continuing to make that happen. Gary Pretlow became, when they tore down his school out in Queens, we had a reunion and we adopted Gary into the Mount Vernon School District because he didn't have a school to go back to. And so he is now an honorary member of the Mount Vernon School District. And Jeff Klein has certainly wormed his way into the hearts of this community as well. And even though he lives just over the border in the Bronx, which used to be a part of Mount Vernon, by the way, when you look at the history, where he lives was a part of Mount Vernon. So he's still a Mount Vernonite, even though he doesn't want to admit it. The point I'm making is this: whether you were born here, whether you came here yesterday or 50 years ago, you came because you wanted to be here. And this is a very special place, and it's our responsibility to do everything that we can, starting with your children, to make it possible for them to always want to be here, and to give them the education and as well as the gift of community that makes us the special place that I think that we are. So I thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and certainly to our school board president, who I also grew up with. You know, she's a little younger than I am, but we all grew up together, and that's what this community has always been about. And I thank you for your recognition of me tonight, because I live a block and a half from the school that we endowed, and it wasn't my personal money. I don't have that kind of affluence, but it felt good to be able to endow a school in your community, and one that I pass every day and know that there's beauty there. But more than that, there's a community garden, and there's a sense of community that has grown up around Graham School. And so I have a great appreciation for the beauty that you've brought with that money, and to Mr. Silva for putting up with me through all the changes but I would call him and say, I got $125,000, can you use it? And he said, oh yeah, I could use it. But to be able to do that, and for the daycare, for the preschool program up at the high school, it was wonderful to watch that transition, because we're starting the very young, and we're making them a part of the permanency of this community. I thank you so much.
And one more, Adrian, before you go back to your seat. Tonight, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the hard work and efforts of the Mount Vernon Kiwanis. This organization was serving the children of Mount Vernon since 1926, and I have heard the countless stories of the Key Club Buddy Nights back in the day on Fridays in Mount Vernon, and I have seen members in present-day action educating kids at the Mind, Body, and Soul Wellness event. But on October 28th, the Kiwanis organization nationwide participated in Kiwanis One Day, an international day of service. And the Mount Vernon membership put together an Oktoberfest dinner to raise funds for students who lack the resources to purchase school uniforms. It's been our endeavor to make sure that as we implemented the mandatory school uniform policy, that we also supported those families who may not have had the means to support and purchase the uniforms, thereby creating greater equity in our district. So tonight I present this certificate to commemorate the efforts of the organization, and would like to call up Mr. Thomas DiGiulio, along with his wife, Dr. Rosemary DiGiulio, and the past international president of the Kiwanis International, and also a graduate of Mount Vernon Public High Schools. And I'd also like to acknowledge Donna Jackson for her work with Kiwanis in making this an effort, and I present this certificate of appreciation to Kiwanis of Mount Vernon on behalf of the Mount Vernon City School District for your generosity and donation towards school uniforms to meet the needs of students. They raised $3,600 to provide uniforms to our students.
It's a great privilege and an honor for here to be back in Mount Vernon. I started in 1966 in Mount Vernon High School, but 1958 was my third grade teacher, Dr. Mike Detero's wife, Camille Detero, and what she did with the Key Club and Keyettes, and you should appreciate this, is that the pool, we opened what we call the Buddy Program. We won Parents Magazine Award in 1969 for opening the city to all of the city students to come, and there were volunteers that ran that pool. So it's extra special to hear tonight that we're doing that again. Mount Vernon High School has been very special to me. It's where George Latimer and I worked in the Key Club, and then we went on to Fordham University to form the Circle K, the college level. And we know what George is doing now these days, but Rosemary and I are now retired from Fordham University, and we have time to give back to Mount Vernon. And thanks to Donna Jackson, who just joined our Mount Vernon Kiwanis Club last year, rejoined, yes, she was a Key Clubber, former Key Clubber, yes. And we're trying to get more former Key Clubbers to join us because this old organization, founded in 1926, has to reinvent itself, but do what it did back in 1926 and serve children with milk that weren't able to afford milk in 1926. And now there are a lot of children that need us here in these times. So receiving this from you, I think, tells us that we're heading towards a partnership with the school district. We want to do more for the children because we love our children, and love is the answer to all our problems. So let's keep working, and we're grateful to being partnered with. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you, those honorees this evening. Thank you for partnering with us. This is what it takes to turn our district around, these kinds of partnerships and your continued commitment. And I assure you that your efforts are not in vain. We are indeed on the right track. We are so excited that this is the year of the teacher and our teacher recognition program that we're going to do later on. Again, I will talk about it in greater detail in my superintendent's report, but thank you so much for joining us and helping us make this a better place. Still on my report?
Still on your report?
Okay. So continuing with my report, we've designated this year as the year of the teacher, and I wanted to acknowledge our teachers through a ceremony where we have nominations and we offer a Distinguished Teacher Award. And Donna Jackson has helped to create this endeavor. So we are looking at having a nomination process and a formal ceremony where we celebrate our classroom heroes and ultimately recommend a Distinguished Teacher of the Year. And again, this is supported by Senator Jeff Klein's office. So as we unfold and unravel the nuances of this great initiative, we'll be sharing dates with you about how this will happen and when. We're looking at a date in March and nominations, which, by the way, will be open to Teachers can nominate themselves, colleagues can nominate teachers, community members can nominate teachers, students can nominate teachers, parents, and we will have an application process that we will be releasing within the next day or so. I'm also proud to announce our Christmas community event. This is our third annual Most Wonderful Time community event, which will be held on Saturday, December 9th at Mount Vernon High Schools. Doors will open at 6:30. In addition to collecting goods for the neediest Mount Vernon families for the holidays, we are also collecting items for the Jorge Parceda Hurricane Relief Foundation. We will also debut the Mount Vernon All-City Chorus, which is a student chorus and orchestra comprised of students from across the district. And our celebrity guest reader this year will be Wendy Williams, who will read The Night Before Christmas. We've also talked about the ribbon cutting at the Mount Vernon swimming pool. So that is Monday, December 4th at 11 o'clock a.m. And that announcement has also, and press release has also gone out. I'd also like to share with the board that the state monitors visited the district yesterday to share our status with some of the non-compliance indicators from 2008. We started out with 29 non-compliance citations. We are now down to 7, and by all indications, we should satisfy these by January 2018. So kudos to our special ed department, and particularly Felicia Gaon and for her leadership in that area, where this is a huge, huge accomplishment. Also tonight, we are privileged to have with us Georgia Asiato, who is from the Conference of Big Five School District. I sent information to the board about 2 weeks ago about their services that her organization provides. They have recently approved an exception to their membership, and those provisions will provide an opportunity for districts like Mount Vernon to join their association as an affiliate membership. So at this time, I'd like to ask Georgia if she'd like to come up and make her presentation to the board. You're very welcome. Thank you and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, President and members of the Board of Education. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. Hi. Hello, and to the community members. My name is Georgia Asciuto. I am the Executive Director of the Conference of Big Five School Districts. The organization is a nonprofit 5013C organization. It's a membership organization that was founded at approximately 60 years ago for the specific purpose of recognizing the unique needs and issues of the large city school systems and to promote solutions to those needs. The organization of the 5 districts, I'm presuming you know, but let me just review. The big 5 city school districts in New York State are Buffalo, New York City, Rochester, Syracuse, and Yonkers. It's a longstanding organization. However, 4 years ago, we opened up the membership, so to speak, at the request of the Utica City School District. Utica is a small city school district in upstate New York, which is comparable, actually, to the Mount Vernon City School District regarding number of students in poverty, and comparable to the other cities, the Big 5 city school districts. And I want to talk about the characteristics of the Big 5 but before I do, Utica was interested because they saw the work we do in Albany. The organization's main office is based in Albany. It has a long-standing office there. And our work is to act as a liaison for our districts collectively and individually to the state leaders, the state legislator, obviously the members of the legislature who are here, the governor, the executive chamber, the state education department, the commissioner, and the various other state agencies of which you have interaction or need interaction with. So when Utica asked to join the Big 5, our executive board agreed and thought perhaps even though they have very comparable student demographics, they also have very comparable fiscal capacity issues. And that's why it was such a nice initial fit, because they're a poor district. And they have the fiscal concerns that the other Big 5, my original Big 5 members have, which I think you probably share. They have growing student enrollment, and in addition to not only having more students entering their schools on a regular basis, the students who are coming in have even greater needs. In upstate New York, there are a lot of refugee resettlement areas. Utica happens to be one, as well as Rochester and Syracuse. We're seeing influxes of students, and I presume you are here as well, Dr. Hamilton, from some of the islands that have been affected by the hurricanes.
Yes.
And so our districts are growing. So we now have, we're called the Conference of Big Five School Districts, but I represent 6 districts. So as many of the legislators will tell you, in Albany, it's kind of a running joke. Are you still Big Five? Are you Big Five plus 1 or Big Five? Are you Big 6? And we said, no, we're keeping the organization. It has a long-standing 60-year title and history, and everybody knows me as the executive director. I'm in my 24th year in the Big Five. I've had the pleasure of servicing the districts that I work for, the families, the communities, for all these years. And I will tell you, while the work is hard, it's challenging, it's rewarding, and it's the right work. Public education advocacy is the right work, in my opinion. I am also a resident of Westchester. I live in Yonkers, for full disclosure. And I have a satellite office in the Yonkers district when I'm not in Albany, but I spend most of my time upstate. So our 6 member districts, as we stand now, 6 school districts, we represent 45% of New York State's K-12 students. 6 school districts, 45% of the public school population. It's pretty astounding. Of that student population in New York State, 45% of K-12, almost 70% of New York State's English language learners are in our 6 school districts. Staggering. Our districts represent students living in poverty. Poverty rates are staggering as well. I've provided you, and I think Dr. Hamilton just mentioned, some of the work that we do, and I think you have it before you, and I wanted to give you just kind of a flavor of the organization and the data that we use. As I said, we're a private nonprofit organization. We don't have a political action committee. What we do provide is information. And I thought I would share with you, this is just a snapshot of the brochure, is a snapshot of our districts. So the way we present our liaison work to the legislature and the other policymakers in Albany is to provide the data, the statistics, the numbers of students in our districts that are living in poverty, and you'll see all this there. And then in the insert, you'll see a little bit about each of our districts, and then collectively on the back. So we have, as I said, 45% of the students, almost 70% of English language learners, more than 50% of the state's special education pupils, and 60% of the kindergarten age students, pre-kindergarten age students. Our districts serve full-day kindergarten, universal pre-K, expanded pre-K, moving to full-day pre-K where they don't have it. And our work is ongoing and continuous. I have a staff of 2 people that work with me. We're a 3-person team for our 6 school districts. We're highly energized, and we're efficient. We have to be. So what do we do in Albany? And please feel free to stop me if you have any questions, concerns. As an advocacy organization, we would be your liaison. We work on statutory, regulatory, budgetary, and policy-driven issues. And we center a lot of our work and focus on the state budget. And you may ask why. Well, the districts I represent are all heavily dependent on the state for resources, as I think you are here. Some as heavy as Buffalo, which relies on the state of New York for about 70% of their funding, Rochester 75%, all the way range down to New York City at about 40% of their funding. So a predominant amount of the funding comes from the state of New York. Our districts don't have the capacity, or our cities don't have the capacity to keep up with their needs of their students by taxing their citizens. So we have to rely on the state. That's where our focus is. That's where the concentration of the Big Five organization is. Not only are we dependent on the state for resources, we're also heavily regulated by the state in education policy. So the work, our scope of our advocacy, I think, share with you the framework for advocacy. You'll see we work on every aspect in the organization of a school district on program, policy, curriculum, budget, finance, facilities, standards. Give me a topic, I'll say we work on it. So some of the work is continual, ongoing, particularly in budget. Some of it is new with the emerging issues. We have issues right now with enrollment growth, which is soaring. We had a recent meeting of our districts, and I know some districts are getting an influx of students just recently, and many of our students are coming into our schools speaking languages that we cannot find bilingual teachers to educate them in. It's a very big concern for us, particularly when you look at the number of languages spoken in any one of our districts. In Syracuse, where there are about 22,000 students, 92 languages are spoken. 92 languages. Utica, which is comparable in size, probably a few more thousand students than Mount Vernon. They have over 11,000 students, K-12, 46 languages. We work on policy with the State Board of Regents and the State Education Department to try to create greater pipelines to encourage more paraprofessionals and go into the teaching ranks. For translation services, it's a critical need across the state, but primarily in the 6 districts. I don't know if you want me to just go into additional types of work we do.
Now, the board's been privy to that. I did share the information with them. I just wanted them an opportunity to meet you, see if they had any questions, and then we can discuss next steps with the board at a later time.
I have a question.
Yes,
So the Big Five deals with large districts,
yes.
typically. Mount Vernon is a small district.
Yeah.
So obviously you guys are expanding into smaller districts. And, every district is unique, right? What is it about Mount Vernon that you guys see, the Big Five sees, that you can come and make immediate impact? Or is that, how you kind of structure it? Impact, I'm not sure if that's the word.
No,
They've
it's fair.
actually done
Fair
some
point.
work that's assist us already, and she can talk about that.
Well, one of the reasons why I got to know some of the staff here is because of the work I'm doing in Yonkers. There's a lot of similarities between the needs of Mount Vernon and the needs of Yonkers. I work with Yonkers I've worked with Yonkers, on a capital program. Their infrastructure is in great disrepair, and they are short a sizable number of seats to manage their growing enrollment. So things like that, where you can join in or we can join with you on a common agenda. So one of the things about the organization, maybe I wasn't clear, we represent each individual district and what their needs are before the state as well as collectively. So sometimes it helps to have strength in numbers when you're working on an agenda, on a budget issue or a capital infrastructure issue, or on mandatory kindergarten legislation. All of our districts we have a mandatory kindergarten statute in every one of the districts I've worked on individually, and then it just grew out of there. So I think from the standpoint of the Mount Vernon community, if you're interested, we could bring to you some of the expertise we already have worked on in some of these issues, but also the ability to get greater support in Albany because you have more people who would be pushing the agenda forward.
Got it.
And I don't, so that's would be my response to you. But we also do a lot of work in the program area with trying to expand career and technical education, working with the State Education Department. We have groups in our organization of the staff level, your staff here, that meet regularly. It's ongoing meetings. So not only do I work with the members of the legislature that were here this evening, but the work we do is we share best practices among ourselves, and we liaison with the State Education Department. So for example, Thursday, the Big Five facility directors are coming to Albany because we're meeting with the State Education Department on our facility needs. And we have, these meetings are several times a year. I had a request yesterday from the social studies curriculum staff at the State Education Department. Given the changes in the new content area, they wanted to know if the Big Five would be willing to set up regular conference calls with our social studies curriculum specialists in our districts. Of course. So what I think the best way to answer it is that the organization is highly recognized because of its long-standing history and commitment in Albany, and as the only organization that represents urban education in New York State. There are a lot of organizations, statewide organizations, that represent public education, but we're the only ones that represent public urban education.
Got it. So just more hands on deck to move the needle forward, be more
And
efficient.
a common agenda.
Sure.
So I don't know if I answered you
No,
well.
you did. Thank you. Thanks.
I had just a question. Hi.
Hi.
Obviously, you're the go-to source for this specific group of districts and their relationship with the state. What about, and you kind of touched on this just a minute ago in your response, but for other nonprofits, for private groups, for example, I was just thinking other resources like marketing efforts, right? Building partnerships with universities, recruiting, how to get better teachers in your district. There's lots of other things that the state doesn't really help us with, but we need help with. And what kind of resources do you have, or can you help facilitate as, you know, Yonkers is trying to hire good teachers, we're trying to hire good teachers, and so forth, right?
Don't poach Yonkers. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, we're in it together. So the work that we do is external. So that's the strength of what we do. We would be willing to work with you on trying to do some partnerships with other organizations. We do that work already, for example, in the P-TECH program. You have a P-TECH program, it's a partnership with your business community, your higher ed institutions, and your curriculum and high schools. So I do have a collaborative relationship with the Business Council. We work together on those interests, because they're common interests.
Right.
So to the extent we could be helpful, we certainly would be willing to be helpful. That would be dictated by your needs and our ability to meet them. I don't know if there's anything more specific.
Nope.
You know, and some of it is maybe just partnering with Yonkers and sitting down with the Yonkers and maybe not for purchasing power, but maybe on professional development. We have emerging needs in professional development because of the standards revision. And so I think, you know, certain aspects we could bridge. Sure, my favorite topic. I love talking about school aid. So I'm building it in particular. And, some of the ideas I had to help the Yonkers School District this year was to introduce or ask for the introduction of legislation that was specific to the high-need school districts in Westchester County. Mount Vernon's a high-need district, one of four. Mount Vernon, Yonkers, two of the four. And that's actually how I met Mr. Silver. Since you are high need and have low wealth, we thought, and you're overcrowded, that maybe the legislature would be receptive and the governor to a legislative proposal where you could access additional building aid because you have more than 10% overcrowded of your schools. So I've worked on legislation now that hasn't made its way through the legislature yet, but that was an idea that I had and worked with Ken on. And then there's another bill that's passed both houses of the legislature that is piggybacked off of a bill that we worked on for the Yonkers School District regarding additional building aid to help you with your infrastructure needs. That has passed both houses of the legislature. Mr. Pretlow was the sponsor. Has not gone to the governor yet. Similar bill was advanced for Yonkers. Interestingly enough, a bill was passed and signed into law, comparable bill for Rochester last year. So that also is some of the benefit of an organization where you have the commonality from your sister cities across the state, because what we've experienced in the Big Five, our Big Five districts solely, without Utica, are fiscally dependent on their cities for funding. So what Mount Vernon and the independent school districts have been experiencing under the tax cap, the city school districts have been virtually living under a tax cap for decades, with very few exceptions of increases from their local governments. So perhaps it's something that we could share with your business staff on how to maximize resources when there are limited funds available and you have greater needs. Does that answer you? Oh, my pleasure. I thought you wanted me to talk about funding formula and the foundation aid. So much of what we do is request modifications in the foundation aid funding, which is the major source of funding for school systems, so that they are more representative of the students who are poor, and the measurement is accurate. The free and reduced price and the census poverty measures are accurate, and that it's much more representative of the English language learner population and how those students are counted. We do a lot of work on the minutia of the funding formula. I don't want to bore anyone. Tell me, do you want me to keep going?
I think that's
Or-
That's
sufficient.
it. Any more questions from
I am-
the board?
Happy to answer any questions at a later time.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Thank you so
Okay.
much for being here
Thank
this
you.
evening.
Well,
Thank you for the opportunity, I appreciate it.
That concludes the superintendent's report for this evening.
Thank you. Very thorough. We're going to go right to communication from the public.
Good evening. The Board of Education recognizes the critical importance of community discourse and involvement in the education of the Mount Vernon's children, and accordingly, members of the public are invited to speak at each regularly scheduled board meeting, subject to the terms of board policy. Speakers must register in advance no later than 4 p.m. on the date of the meeting by contacting me, the district clerk, here at 165 North Columbus Avenue, Mount Vernon, by phone at 914-665-5235, or via email at rmccormick@mtvernoncsd.org. The board welcomes all respectful comment, whether praise or criticism. However, identifying and criticizing a specific student, parent, teacher, administrator, or other Mount Vernon education official or employee is strictly prohibited. Such complaints must be presented and addressed through the proper administrative channels. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak, with up to 1 additional minute that may be used for the speaker to summarize and conclude their remarks. If appropriate, board trustees and the superintendent or a staff member at his or her discretion may respond to the speaker's remarks at the conclusion of public comment. Our first speaker tonight is Norman Hauptmann. Our next speaker is Brenda L. Crump.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to first share with the board, I know often I come to the podium and I have some grievances and some complaints, but I do have compliments and praises for the district. Y'all just don't hear about them all the time. But I'm going to share this one publicly. My children, the last 2 of the 7, graduated from Thornton High School June 19th of June, and they have now moved on to their plans for life after high school. Monday, 20th, I took them upstate for school. But what I want to share with you is that they took placement exams, or basically exams to determine if they needed remedial courses. And so they scored well on it. They did not. So I want to share that. And for that, maybe I can get an extra minute to cover the other things that I need to cover now that I gave some praise to the district. I'm not kidding about that. But at any event, I want to share that, publicly with the board and the superintendent and the community at large. So with that said, because we hear many a times that our children go on to higher education and they have to take remedial courses. Now, that's not to say that others do not. Remember, I said that's 2 of 7. That wasn't the case with all of them. However, that is the case with this one, so I will stick with that praise and compliment. But what I also want to find out from the board is and I've been away at different meetings, had other things to do, so I was not able to be here. So I'm going to cover an issue that perhaps is old, but needs to be covered. And that is, I want to talk about the resolution that was presented to the board on the agenda of October 3rd, as well as October 17th. It was tabled. And the resolution was authorization to pay creative direction, construction, and design. Now, I want to ask the board, if you will please explain to the community, what is the process for tabled resolutions? When they're tabled and they are to be brought back, as this one was, brought to the meeting on October 3rd, tabled, to be brought back on October 17th, tabled, to be brought back on November 7th. I believe that was the next board meeting date. At any event, something happened between October 17th and November 7th, where the resolution was not brought back. It's in the newspapers and on Facebook that trustee Zamore, I'm not picking on you, I'm just calling names because it is and it's public. Trustee Zamore paid this vendor, construction person, for services rendered to the district. So one question is, what is the process for tabled resolutions, because the resolution never came back? I didn't see it, but I did read the article in reference to the payment. Also, so then that might be conceived as a donation to the district. So then I asked if the board would please explain to the community the process for which donations are received, because I didn't see a resolution in regards to a donation either. So will you explain those two processes, please, to the community? And I think that the resolution should be addressed, because we don't want to give the community a perception of retaliation, political fighting back. And so I know that Trustee Zamore was attacked or was talked about in reference to that resolution. But for it not to come back gives the perception to the community that the board will not handle and address things appropriately according to process and procedures. Because how is it that a trustee pays for services rendered to the district out of his personal pocket, and there's no mentioning of it? And then, like I said, could it be perceived, or is it a donation, and then there's no process in reference followed in reference to receiving donations? So will you please speak to that, because we know that this is surrounding the $108 million bond, and I just want to make sure that the board realizes that you don't want to give the perception to the community that you're not willing to address things and address them appropriately, because the resolution should have come back, or either at least came back in the form of a donation and being dealt with. It should, and I'm going to close with this, it should not be presented on a official board meeting agenda twice, go away and never come back. So please explain at least those two processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crump.
Madam President, if you don't mind, I can take that one. Actually, Mrs. Crump, you beat me to it, because it was on my list here to cover under new business. So took that spark away from me. But anyway, so I definitely wanted to bring it up. I think there were some misunderstandings when it came to this. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me grab it over here. Hello. Hello. Okay, great. So, just let me see where I can start here. Let's go back to how it came about. So basically, Andre Wallace, who's one of the city's councilmen, is also a contractor, and so at one point, the district was having issues in terms of maybe not properly estimating, but coming up with estimates that we felt that were going to be true to what the construction costs in Mount Vernon were going to be for the construction projects of certain schools. And so we needed, so basically our project managers and our architects, our engineers actually, were coming up with prices that were really, really high for certain projects. And the architects were saying, well, we build in New York City cheaper than that, so we doubt that these prices will actually hold when we go to bid. However, at that point, we had to either believe that these were going to be the prices and that we couldn't afford, let's say, the extension at Grimes or the thorough build-out at Mandela, or whatever it may be. And we would have to build, let's say, something much less, or redesign something much less, or reconceptualize something much less, and not get what we really needed as a district for our children and for the community school. So at that point, I reached out to Mr. Wallace, and I said, you're in construction, you've done jobs in Mount Vernon, you worked on the Wartburg, so you have local experience here. We're looking actually for professionals in the business to give us bids. So what would it cost you, what would it cost us, what would you charge us to come up with a bid, an estimate, not a bid, I'm sorry, an estimate for us in terms of some of our projects, so we could know whether or not locally, what the prices would be, if it would be too high or maybe much lower than what we're getting. So Mr. Wallace said, well, why don't I see the plans and so on and so forth, and I could give you an idea. Well, he came back to me with the proposal and the estimate done versus a price to what it would take to do the proposal, so I could propose that to the district, so the district could either say, okay, here's an RFP for an estimate, and we welcome one from you, and the board would decide on that, or the district, however it goes through the administration. So at that point, I said, well, this is not the proper way to do it. We'd first have to see how much you're going to charge, and then we'd have to submit an RFP, and you'd have to go through the administration for that. But now that you already submitted it to me, or I have it in my hands, would you like to bid on these projects when they come up? And he said, sure, I'd like to bid on them. I said, well, if you'd like to bid on them, then I can't submit this to the district, even for them to see, and certainly not for payment, because you first need an RFP, but we'll just table this because I can't basically show your hand, quote unquote. And so he said, okay, fine. So that kind of went away, and then later on, when I was absent from a board meeting, maybe 6 months later, oh, by the way, just so you know, his prices that he came up with, his estimates were much lower than the estimates that the engineers and the other people were giving us, in terms of what it would cost us. So it gave us the confidence at that time to maybe move forward with the projects that we were working on to the bid process, because we felt that the bids would come in lower. And in fact, they all did. The bids did come in lower. So we didn't have to redesign the buildings and and build something inferior or something much less, because we were afraid that they were going to come in too high. That said, months later, the board came up with a resolution when I wasn't here to pay Creative Direction for this particular estimate. Now, the board nor the administration never asked me personally, you sent me an email or any type of communication to say, Mr. Zamor, by the way, Mr. Wallace is demanding payment for this. We know nothing about this, and how should we handle this? There was never an RFP given to Mr. Wallace. There's no way we could actually pay Mr. Wallace. So the fact that it went from Mr. Wallace and I, let's say, having this conversation and him submitting something to me that I said, well, we really can't submit this way. But if you're going to bid on it, then I can't submit it anyway. That number will be your bid. To having a resolution come up to actually pay Mr. Wallace was actually quite strange, I'd have to be honest with you. So they tabled it because I wasn't here, because I believe Trustee probably Williams and Jarosz said, well, Mr. Zamor is not here. Why don't we hear from him why we have to even pay this bill, especially if it wasn't, if it wasn't requested by the district. So going back to what you were saying, this should have never come up because the district never issued an RFP or never requested this particular services. So there was no mechanism for it to be paid. All right. So the fact that they even put it on as a resolution to be paid was actually quite surprising to me. So now I then called, when I heard about this, and the second time it came up, we had some technical issues over the voice over IP, I guess, what do you call that again? The Skype. And so I couldn't participate in that meeting because I was away, but I was participating via Skype where I was going to explain it. But so they tabled it again because I wasn't present. So between that time, I communicated with Mr. Wallace, and I explained to him, just as I explained to you now, and he said, oh, Les, well, obviously there was a misunderstanding. I thought I sent you a demand for payment months ago, but I realized my emails now I never sent you anything. But I thought I did. But I said, oh, you didn't? Well, if you did, you could send it to you. Yeah, I never got it. And so he said, you know what, don't worry about it. Just squash it. And I said, well, no. You came out of your pocket, and actually you helped, maybe not the district, but you helped me get a better understanding of what costs were in the local area, and it gave me the confidence to even, present to the administration and the board that, hey, look, I believe, I have reasons to believe, I told them at the time, never explained to them, why I had the reasons to believe, but I have reasons to believe based on a local contractor's knowledge that these costs were going to be much lower, so we could proceed like how we're the way we're going with these projects, and I think the bids will come in lower. And I said, and most of the other bids did come in lower. Not specifically those, because those didn't go out to bid yet, but we will see. So I said, Andre, you know what? You're my friend. You know, there's no reason why you should be caught with this, but there's no way for the district to pay you either, because we never went through the proper channels. You just presented something, and it just doesn't operate like that. So I'll pay you out of my own pocket. So he was like, well, you don't have to. I don't want you to have to pay. I said, no, it's not a big deal, because you actually have to pay people to do the work for you. So it's not like you were making money on this. So he said, okay, fine. So I met up with him, gave him the check, and he sent the check to the district in an email, copied the board, the administration, I believe Mr. Silver, the superintendent, and I believe the president's husband, Greg Bonaparte, on the email correspondence, and said that it's all taken care of. Thank you very much, and I'll pull the request for payment. It then ends up in the newspaper. Now, one of these individuals had to give it to the newspaper, either Mr. Wallace or one of the people, either the board, the administration, or maybe the president's husband who was copied on it. Someone had to present it to the papers. For what reason? Again, probably political payback, politics, trying to make it seem like I did something wrong. Now, it can't be presented as a donation because it was never services rendered to the district. You see, so since it was never really necessarily rendered to the district, because the district never, to my knowledge, got a copy of it or what he produced, then it was something that stayed on the outside, where it should have been. Now, why did the district, give a resolution for payment? I have no idea. So that's something that maybe the superintendent or maybe the president could discuss with you and answer for you. But that summarizes that dealing with that particular, quote-unquote services that Creative Direction basically came up with an estimate and how it was taken care of. So there was nothing underhanded. There was nothing malicious. I just still don't understand why the board decided to. And the resolution process, it has to be seen by the president. It has to go through the administration. It has to be okayed by the superintendent. How did it ever get to the point where they were paying it? I have no clue. But I'll pass the floor on to the superintendent or the president to answer that.
Ms. Crump, did that answer your question?
Partially. One, I said, what is the process for table resolution? Because whether trustees Zamora say services were rendered to the district or not, it came to the district on an official agenda school board meeting, therefore makes it official, of a vendor asking for payment for services that vendor perceived was received to, given to the district. So the fact that it came to an official board meeting on an official agenda and tabled twice needs to be addressed. So the process is, so what happens to tabled resolutions? Also, although trustee Zamora may say it was not a donation, that's for discussion for y'all to discuss, because it appears and look like it might have been a donation. So something, this resolution is somewhere, and the last thing you want is the public to perceive any funny business or that the board members will not address an issue, because it looks like, I'm not saying that it is, it looks like a retaliation attack against Mr. Trustee Zamora. Y'all know I'm not on his fan bandwagon. You know what he did when I was at the podium. But I am for what's right, what's whatever. So I'm saying it looks like it might have been a political attack or whatever against him. And so therefore, since he paid out of pocket, oh, well, there's no issue. No, there's still an issue. The issue is the resolution coming on the agenda. And so what happens to tabled resolution? The issue is, it's very odd. It's strange and perhaps uncommon. Don't know if it has or has not been done before, but a trustee paying out of pocket for services, I'll say that was rendered to the district, because the resolution came before the board on an agenda. So explain the process of donations, because it was a donation.
It wasn't a donation. That was a school board trustee acting out of the scope of his, a board trustee acting out of the scope of his duties. But as far as the tabling of the resolution, Vic, can you answer that?
Generally, a resolution that's tabled is brought back at the direction of the administration at a following meeting. In this case, it was my understanding that the resolution was resolved, so there was no longer a need for it,
So-
because the resolution was authorizing the payment of, the payment to Creative Design, and once that was paid, there was no longer a bill to pay, so it was not brought back. That's my understanding.
Can I speak to that? And just as your successor on the policy committee, so and for the benefit of the public, right? We, the board, don't create the agenda. We are given the agenda by the administration. The administration is the ones who decide what to present to us to vote on. There are limited circumstances where we as a board can create our own agenda items and vote on things that we want to, but generally speaking, we are presented the agenda in advance by the administration. All of us individually review the agenda in advance. We have questions. We talk not as a group, but individually with the superintendent and any deputy superintendents to answer any questions we might have about specific agenda items so that we're clear on what's being requested. And it was multiple, if not all of us board members, that when that came up on the agenda, we all kind of said the same thing. What is this? Where is this? What is this about? We didn't know. And the response was it was something that, as Mr. Zamora just described, it was something that some interaction he had with this provider, so we tabled it because we didn't know what to do with it. He wasn't there. And then again, the next meeting, we tabled it again. And then everything else that you're hearing tonight, I'm hearing for the first time. I'm not aware of any news article. I'm not aware of anybody being paid anything. I'm aware of what's on the agenda item because that's what my job is to pay attention to the agenda item and be aware. So in terms of the policy for accepting donations, yes, districts, I think all districts are required to vote to approve any donation made to the district, especially material one, but even immaterial ones, whether they're money or in-kind donations. We have some on the agenda tonight. We have accepting some, for the homeless students, right? We have some accepting some donations, so that is something that's regularly on our agendas, accepting donations of amounts and services paid, made or donated to the district.
I think she's referring to that the resolution was never closed. It was tabled, and then it was taken away.
Right, so my understanding,
That's
I
where
haven't
she's going.
reviewed Robert's rules in a while, but I think that once we're done with an agenda, the agenda's done. And then the next meeting, we open up a meeting, we have a new agenda, and either things are re-raised or they're not raised again if there's no reason to re-raise them.
So in terms of how it got on the agenda, and tonight is the first night the board has had an opportunity to hear from Mr. Zamora for the reasons he just outlined. But we had a bill, and up until now, it was my understanding, and I think from the business office as well, that these were services rendered to the district, and we were of the opinion that if a vendor submitted an invoice and indeed provided services, that we had an obligation to pay that bill. So that's how it made the agenda. Hearing Mr. Zamora's explanation tonight, the board now should have a discussion as to whether or not, with the advice of counsel, whether or not it is considered a donation or whether the service was actually provided to the district. But I think there's an additional conversation that needs to be had, but Mr. Zamora, I think, has provided an explanation that I think the board is hearing for the first time because of the reasons he outlined, and I can only speak administratively how it got on the agenda. If a vendor provided services to the district, that vendor is generally entitled to be paid. And then the discussion about whether or not it was an authorized expenditure or not would be one that the board would discuss at a later time. But Mr. Wallace submitted an invoice and requested that he be paid for those services. So we were operating under the premises that it was a legitimate bill. We had no reason to think otherwise, and that the services had been provided, and there was evidence the services were provided. So that's how it made the agenda.
So that's great. I think that there should be some discussion of the board. You're absolutely right how you narrowed it in, that it bring it back, and this way that would have provided trustees more opportunity to say what he said tonight, but for transparency for the community, because once again, I'll repeat, you don't want the community to think that administrators, trustees, etc., are having any kind of funny business with that $108 million bond. You want everything upfront and transparent. So yes, that discussion, should be held and I'll just add, I agree. If somebody submit a bill, a service is done, the district pay it. Trustee Zamora, take your chastisement, take your licking for operating out of order, what have you, do what you're gonna do. Because I, as a community, if I foil for that resolution right now, and in reference to what happened to it, what would I get? Because it's just left in the air, and that should not be for the viewing community, and for anybody who pulled that resolution up. It is archived, it is record, it is official. There should be some closure, and that's the closure, you know, should be coming from the board to the community, and then you settle it once and for all, and whatever happens after that, because I'm sure it will come back in the politics of Mount Vernon.
Just for the record, by the way, so I understand the president was saying that I may have acted out of the duties of a trustee, and I know you just brought it up again. Just for the record, let me just be very clear. Okay, no problem. Just for the record, let me be clear. The fact that as a trustee, that I ask someone to perhaps, to let's say it's an inquiry, to inquire, okay, whether or not they could, they would submit a proposal to partake in what do you call it? Not a bid, but an estimate. Thank you, Mr. Silver. Is not operating outside of my duties as a trustee. Anyone could ask any professional if they would like to submit an estimate or a proposal for an estimate to the district. Okay, as the district was looking for people to submit estimates. So the fact that he did it, and by the way, I have a text message here to prove that I asked him how much would it be, and would you be interested, and then him coming back saying, hey, look, let me see what it entails, and then he just came straight back with the actual estimate. So that is not me acting outside my duty. Now, once he did that, I was like, whoa, you can't do that because you didn't go through the proper channels. But if you're interested in bidding on this, then hold it back, and you can present that as your bid later on in closed bids, right, that come to the district. So the fact that he submitted payment and the district said, oh, well, look at this, someone's submitting payment. Does everyone who sends a bill to the district automatically pays because, oh, they submitted a bill, so it must be true? No, you have to investigate. What was the due diligence? What was the investigation done by the district to prove that this was legitimate, that the service were actually rendered? Because don't forget, I never gave it to the district when I received it, and so I don't know at what point Mr. Wallace submitted it to the district and said, hey, by the way, this is work that I did for you guys. At some point, the business office, the superintendent's office, at some point, someone had to say, well, we never requested this. What are you talking about? Well, Mr. Zamora requested it. Okay, so let's ask Mr. Zamora and do some type of research. That was never presented to me by the administration or the board or the business office. So for it to go from there straight to a resolution proves to me that not enough research or diligence was done in terms of determining on whether or not that that bill that was presented was actually, I don't want to say factual, but was services that were actually rendered to the district. How did the district know that the service were rendered when they were never presented with the actual estimate? They were just given the bill. Doesn't make sense.
There were designs submitted along with the bill, though. So when I commented earlier that there was a bill and evidence that the work was done, there were designs presented as well.
Okay, but there was there ever any proof of the district requesting the work being done?
Other than Mr. Wallace indicating that he had been authorized to do the work and present the designs, that was, to my understanding, the evidence that was submitted that substantiated that the work was indeed done. And I think they, as a vendor and providing the evidence, is up to the board after that bill is paid to talk about, all right, what are the procedures, or once it hits the board resolution to say, wait a minute, this is not something that has been authorized or we knew nothing about it. But I think it was incumbent upon the administration, after the designs were presented along with an invoice, the work was clearly done, to honor that work, and then the board could decide what you want to do at that point.
Okay.
Approve it or not.
Can I just suggest, we don't, this isn't a courtroom, we're not going to try ourselves tonight, especially, I'm hearing this for the first time, half this information. So let's talk about the facts, let's meet with council and figure out exactly what happened, and then we can make a decision about what, if anything, we need to say about it.
I don't think, Mike, anyone's trying anybody here. I think we're all, a lot of us are, I'm saying this for the first time here to the public, which I think it should be something discussed in public, and you're hearing it for the first time, but there has to be a higher standard for when bills are presented to or invoices are presented to the administration for them to be vetted, okay, before they come up to the board for a resolution to be paid. And that's what I'm saying. And that's what caught me by surprise, is that standard was actually kind of low. It's just someone presenting, by the way, there was no designs, it was just an estimate. Okay, so here's an estimate.
Nobody charges for an estimate. Clearly, some work was actually done.
No, there was a charge. You know, people do charge for estimates, Micah. You don't know that, and actually, people do. We pay for estimates all the time, and you voted on resolutions to pay for estimates.
Yet
that
the
have been done.
superintendent stated that there were designs.
That were designed.
This is what I'm talking about. So we have a disagreement about the facts.
Ms.
We don't
Crump,
need to talk
Did you
about
get your
this
question
right now.
answered?
I'd like to see those designs, because
Ms. Crump?
under no circumstance would be.
All right, so let's,
If I can.
we just move on?
If I can say.
All right, let's just move on. I believe she's satisfied with what was
No, I
presented.
didn't say that. I said, I guess y'all will come back and let the community know if it's a donation, then you handle it according to policy.
Yes.
For donations, you decide what you're gonna do and say something to the community.
I think we need to outline for the community that once a resolution is tabled and then resolved, perhaps coming back to it saying it's been resolved.
Well, that's what she's asking.
Yes.
That's what she's asking. She didn't ask. to
A
try
tabled
it.
resolution just disappears at the end of a meeting. However,
Right.
I understand your point that that's a little weird if we just bring something up and then never explain what
That's what
happened.
old business and new business is.
That's why we have old business, unfinished business, and new business at the end of every meeting, right?
This is the first
Which we
time
would have discussed at the end, all this.
trustee Zamora is back. Okay,
Okay.
We have one more speaker.
I'm sorry.
Thomas Keller.
I won't be as long. How can I follow that? I don't know if Andre Wallace wants to be paid twice, but don't pay him. He's already been paid for the generosity of Mr. Zamora. Let's kill this. Let's move on. We have a pothole coming into the parking lot. That 3 weeks ago at the Budget Committee meeting, I said, could you please fill a pothole? 3 weeks later, it's still not filled. Please fill the pothole. I'm not singling out anybody, but we all know who it is. Fix the pothole. I don't want to have to keep dodging it. You people come to work every day. You have to dodge it. I come here once whenever. All right. I'm back on the no utility tax. No utility tax in next year's budget. Everybody see the Journal News here? 2A. New York schools just got bad fiscal news. $4 billion budget deficit next year. You probably know a little about this, Assemblyman Pretlow. So we don't know how much money we're going to get next year. Maybe we need a freeze on spending. No additional spending, only what's absolutely necessary. We want to run a surplus this year. The pool. Well, the pool's already been discussed, so you stole my thunder. Thank you. Hope opens up successfully on Monday. It's been a long time. These power hours, by the way, I want to make a request that there's a physical agenda printed up for me and anybody else each meeting. I don't like to look at my computer and then have to remember what I want to talk about. So please, we can spend the money on the paper. Put it on both sides, you know, so you cut it down from 50 pages to 25. What's this power hour? Maybe somebody can address this after I finish. We have all this appropriations for power hour in all the schools, 3 to 5. And Mandela. There's a Mandela program going on that's going to be voted on tonight. But it depends on the number of students. Maybe somebody can elaborate in management, administration, how many students, because it seems like there's 10 or 11 administrators and teachers. How many students in order to go forward with the program? Parent liaison. We're 3 months into the year. September, October, November. What's happening? Is it successful? Nothing? Maybe administration can address that. Parent liaison. Okay, this lady that spoke here, it's the 5 schools plus Utica. It's the big gorilla in New York City, which has 1 million students, and the little 5 or the little 4. All those other students probably add up to 100,000. By the way, you working with Yonkers? Yonkers spends about $22,000 per student. We spend 29 or 30. Can you tell us what the secret is to get our down to 22? I would appreciate that. I know one of the things, we're overstaffed here. For every student, we have 4 or 5 students for every administrator or employee. It's 6 or 7 in New Rochelle and Yonkers. Are you trying to recruit Mount Vernon to be part of the big 1 and the little 5? 6.
Well, that is 6, 1 plus little 5.
So you can try New Rochelle and try White Plains. By the way, the other 2 districts, low needs, high needs districts besides.
Mr. Keller, you're working on your 4 minutes.
Okay. That's it. I hope that pothole's fixed by Thursday when I have a budget meeting at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Keller.
Thank you.
Dr. BC, would you like to address well, I can talk about the Power Hour. The Power Hour is a program that the schools are implementing through their Title I funds. It is designed to provide interventions and supports for students who either need enrichment or remediation. So these are targeted programs that are designed to help students perform at their optimal levels, and each school will have a program that they're calling Power Hour, where they're getting small group instruction to intensify and expand the school day. And this is these classes are conducted after school hours, and they are on every year. The Mandela program, right now, the budget is based on 67 students attending the program. If that enrollment is maintained, we will continue. If that enrollment drops below that number, we'll reduce staffing accordingly so that we're not staffed at 67 students, but staffed at a ratio that's appropriate for the program to continue so that students can make up the additional credits they need through the Plato Recovery Program.
That's just an average school. It's just an after-school.
4 sessions, exactly. And the parent liaisons, the report from the communities, the parent liaisons have been very successful. They've been making contact with parents. They have been conducting workshops at schools. They've been conducting services, connecting parents with services. So for us to be 60 days into the initiative, all reports that I've received have been very positive from all of the schools.
Can I ask a follow-up on that? I know we, as board members, do receive updates on the parent liaisons. Is the public or those specific schools, what outreach are those, is each liaison making to its specific school, or does it vary based on the school?
It absolutely varies based on the school. Schools have different needs, and the parent liaisons provide services based on the needs of those schools. So the needs of Atwood Williams schools, for example, is very different than the needs at schools at Trap Hagen. So their services vary depending on the needs of the schools and the needs of the parents.
But what outreach has gone out to make sure parents know they exist and know that they are?
Dr. Beeson, about your outreach efforts?
Good evening.
Still off.
It's off.
Still off.
It's off.
No.
Nope.
Nope.
I think there's a problem with it.
Just come use one of ours.
You want this one?
evening again, everyone. Let me address the outreach process by the parent liaison. We have several ways and means that we use to contact the community. And as a matter of fact, we have some other parent liaison in the audience tonight. And I will call on them briefly just to come and tell us how they outreach to the community. But we have, we use our K-12, the Blackboard. We use calling the parents. The parent liaison have cell phones. They have their own computers where they reach out to the parents, and the parents will address them. I must say, though, that normally my office used to get calls like maybe 20, 30 calls a day from parents. Now, I'm not even receiving 2 or 3 calls because they're reaching out to the parent liaison. And I'm going to call on them briefly, Ms. Jenkins, and just tell them what you're doing, because you need to hear from them what's going on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rita James, and I'm the parent liaison for Parker Elementary and Williams Elementary. And I talk to parents every day. I had parents reach out to me from various things. Today, I had a parent call about the academic power hour. She called me on my cell phone, wanted her child to be involved in it, and wanted to know how to go about it. So little things like that. Things as simple as, you know, is it a half a day tomorrow? So instead of calling the school, calling everywhere, they call us. And they have my email. They're able to email me with any questions. I help to navigate them through wherever it is they need to go after that. So it's working out really well, and I think parents are happy to have us there. For the Thanksgiving holidays, I made sure I made certain phone calls to parents to just say happy holidays to them. And that phone call is not something that's negative. It's something to say, have a great holiday, and they enjoy that. Because most of the times when they get a phone call, it's always something negative. And so people enjoy that, and they look forward to that. So it's working out really well, and I think parents are happy to have us.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jaquetta Jenkins, and I'm the parent liaison for Tripagan Elementary and Grimes Elementary. I reach out to parents every day. I call parents. I email parents. I see parents in the hallway. I'm letting them know what we're doing in the schools, what workshops we're having to benefit them. I'm letting them know certain ways that they can implement learning at home, the same that we're doing at the school, to help their kids at home. Letting them know the workshops. I'm letting them know about the things that we have going on in the district, like our parent university. We're now having a literacy workshop that's going to be taking place December 9th. So we're communicating with the parents on a level beyond the Blackboard. You know, that automated the message that goes out to everyone. I'm calling Miss Smith. I'm calling Miss Jones. I'm calling Miss Williams personally to invite them to these events. I'm letting them know what their kid is doing in class and how they can help them. And it's effective. It's effective.
Can I just ask a follow-up, Dr. BC, for administration? Does everybody administration, when people call and they don't know who the parent liaison is, does administration have everyone, all the liaisons' info ready to say, you know, I know you're calling me, but really, here's your liaison. You should be asking them this question. They're the ones who can help you.
Well, we have it on the website, and we are going to try to make sure that everybody has that. We have 8,000 pieces of letters, which is going out in the next 2 weeks to the community, introducing all the parent liaison with their phone numbers and all of that. So we are definitely going to make the community know that. But one big thing about the parent liaison is that during the course of the day, like from 12 to 1, which is lunchtime, they have a group of parents who will come in, like the pre-K through 2, and they will do workshops about learning sight words. So a lot of things are going on into the building, and each building has a team, not only the parent liaison, but they have a team of the principal, 2 teachers, 2 parents, and they work together in their buildings to make sure that the parents are taken care of.
That's fantastic. Thanks. You know, I'm very happy to hear that, actually, Mrs. James and Mrs. Jenkins, to hear how well the progress is going. I know the parent liaison is something that I personally helped champion and to bring into the district because I kind of felt that we needed to be a friendlier district to parents. One of the key things is that if you want parents to be participatory in the district, well, you have to be more welcoming to them. And usually, you know, parents would reach out when they would have a problem. They would be passed around. Oh, it's not me. You have to call this person, and it gets frustrating after a while. So by the time they're transferred, you know, 3, 4 times, they become a little bit more irate. And so by the time they get the person that they're supposed to deal with, that person doesn't want to deal with them, and so, there goes, the show. So, so the idea, the concept of having the parent liaison is something that I think this district, specifically Mount Vernon, desperately needed, and I really wish you all the best of luck, and I think it's going to be wildly successful, and it's going to be measurable. I really believe the difference will be measurable in a very short amount of time. And I can't wait to see it roll out further. And I think you're going to see a big difference, not only in parents' attitudes, but also it'll help with the children, because parents really want to get children what they need to succeed. But it's very difficult when you're trying to navigate this bureaucracy. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. That's it for public speaking. Okay, that concludes public speaking. Next, we're going to take committee reports. Mr. Russo?
So first committee I'm on is in regards to clubs for the district. Met today with Dr. Gorman and Gary Gregory, and Trustee Saunders called in. We have been doing research, Dr. Gorman and Mr. Gregory, and we're finding out a lot about what's going on in the district in regards to that. We've learned some interesting information that there are mechanisms in place right now and active clubs, with air quotes, going on right now. What we're really trying to do is centralize them and make sure that whatever is going on to get kids together and under supervision is being maximized to their best potential. So while it may seem that we're going slow, we're trying to make this happen for the long haul, and we anticipate that we will roll something out for the spring session. But everything so far that we've done over the last couple months has made us very happy of how the progress is going to happen, and the bottom line is these clubs will bring kids together, and it will allow them to bolster their applications for their next educational steps, should they choose to take that. And one concern is what's going on right now with the clubs that are not centralized is we want to make sure that they're getting all their maximum advantage out of what they're doing. So we have another meeting scheduled in a couple of weeks, and I know that Dr. Gorman is going to be, I believe, speaking with assistant principals, but as far as all signs point to everything going in the right direction.
Mr. Russo, I have a question. You said that you plan to roll out something in the spring. What is it that you guys plan to roll out? Is it a program, new clubs? Is it a directory of clubs? What is it what's in the planning?
Sure. So based on our research right now, there are a lot of clubs going on right now, but we want to centralize that. We're going to have a directory of clubs. Dr. Gorman and Mr. Gregory have already spoken to the union, and we're trying to fashion a program that has sustainability, and we do want to bring out a couple of new clubs. We've done some research. I know that chess is one of the clubs that we wanted to bring out. It teaches life lessons and just brings people together. But for the spring semester, I believe we're tinkering with 3 or 4 base clubs and trying to see what the feel of the students are going forward. I know another club that was tinkered or toyed with is Kiwanis Club, and a lot of school districts have their sophomores and juniors join this because it looks great on applications. So if we can centralize something like that, we can start competing with other kids in the state.
What are some of the clubs right now that you say that there are many clubs? What are some of the more significant clubs that currently exist? Maybe name 1 or 2.
Sure. So when I say clubs, it's really just with the budget cuts a couple of years ago, the clubs went by the wayside. But there are still teachers and students getting together and having meetings. I believe one was we spoke about it today. There was a debate. Yeah, debate at Benjamin Turner. There's a billboard at Benjamin Turner for a number of different clubs that is looking to seek student interest, and there are teachers who are willing to give their time, which we all applaud. We just want to make sure that the kids are getting the most out of it, not just by going and getting together and getting that experience, but using it to their best advantage. There was debate there. I believe Glee might have been one of them. I know there was cooking classes, so clubs in the most expansive sense of the word, and that's, again, one of the reasons why we want to centralize it.
Well, we talked about a yearbook coordinator.
Yeah.
We talked about Special Olympic programs. We talked about, he said, Kiwanis and Key clubs. And like he said, we need to, a chess club, swim club. And then I said there was some interest in math clubs and community people. So we need to get some more students involved, some more students interested, because there's no sense in starting the club if we don't have participants. So, so there, we have another meeting, I think, on the 6th.
Well, there's a meeting, our next meeting's on the 14th, I believe.
Okay.
But I think on the 6th, Dr. Gorman is going to be meeting with some of the assistant principals.
Principals, building principals.
Oh, sure.
8 o'clock at the board, at the district.
That's going to be on the website.
Evening. So what we found is that schools have had different funding formulas over the years through grants, through community, that have had activities for students, and they've taken advantage of it for their students. What we're trying to do is promote communication of access to clubs and activities for children. We are also looking to standardize some platforms, like does National Honor Society at Thornton look and feel like the same at the high school, and if not, why? And so are there community service hours connected to that? And so we want to put exposure out for children so they could put together a better resume. One of the things we talked about was a school newspaper. But we want to start, we want to really increase communication to say, this is what's going on in all of our buildings. It's a lot more than we realize, but schools have been fending for themselves, and they've used other funding formulas and other community relationships to build that. So we don't want to take away from that, and we don't want to interfere with that process. So we want to recognize that, so that's part of it, is the communication recognition. And then we want to start small, because we didn't have extensive budgeted funds for this year for an extensive club meeting. We have had a lot of investigation, we've done surveys, and we're trying to create a system for co-curricular clubs, is the bottom line. And so we're going to start with a couple of small clubs, and in conjunction, look at some key clubs, some key foundational clubs at the secondary level that might benefit schools, like the newspaper, like National Honor Society, like a Kiwanis club. And that's where we're starting, and then we're going to expand from there.
Do you anticipate that there'll be a fulsome directory of clubs and opportunities like this by the time next year's course catalog is published?
Yeah, well, that's the plan. Part of the plan also, Trustee Owen, is to engage principals, and that's what Trustee Russo was talking about in the budgeting process for advocating for their schools. So if a principal and their administration want to, because they have a certain niche or an interest in their building, or they have teachers that are engaged in certain activities that they're really good at, that they can then have the resources, so in September they'll be able to fund those resources and expose it to their kids and their unique kids. So that is why we're planning now more than this year for next year.
Yeah.
And I believe that we're going to find that each school is going to have different likes and dislikes, or different groups. So what we hope to do by bringing out a few core clubs is get people involved in that, and other kids with other interests will see that it's a possibility. And that's going to open our eyes to what our students want, and we'll go from there.
Okay, and the meeting is, and the next meeting is what day and time?
Next meeting is December 14th, I believe,
At 8 o'clock.
at 8 a.m. here, which I think off the top of my head is a Thursday? Thursday.
And Dr. Gorman, I may have missed this, but are you planning to put out a survey in each of the schools in terms of what clubs the student body or the parents or teachers may want?
We already did that this year.
Oh, you did, and so that came back. And so, what are do you have Did you consolidate those reports, and can we get a copy of it to see?
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll actually present that at the next committee meeting, the results of them,
Okay.
and then we'll present that to the board also.
Yeah, if you want to present it, I mean, send it to me electronically or the board or however, that'd be great. I'd love to just, because obviously that's, clubs and stuff is something that I've been talking about for a while. I think that, if you want to engage children, we have to give them something to look forward to, especially after school. I know that, for example, a yearbook club was not around. A journalism club would have been great to do a school newspaper, have them write about the activities, what's going on in the school community. All right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Russo, you have another committee?
Yes, sure. Audit Committee, we had a meeting last month, and this is to prepare for next board meeting. The auditor, Scott, I want to say Oling? Yes, is from PKF O'Connor Davies, is going to do a presentation to the board on the audit. So we're just waiting for that. That's going to happen next board meeting. Just an FYI on that, we need to do an RFP for that. Their contract is up. I believe the last time there were only 2 submitted, and PKF O'Connor Davies kind of rules this area, so, we'll see what is submitted this time. In regards to the internal audit, we had a meeting regarding that, and it was suggested that we do a deep dive into a couple of different subsets of the expenses, one Medicaid, and also, very importantly, for teachers, to make sure that their step-ups are all being processed correctly. If they're supposed to step up to, just hypothetically, 4 to 5, we want to make sure that they're not going 4 to 6. So these are 2 things in the budget that were isolated by the internal auditor that we're going to do a little bit more research on and come up with the findings.
Okay, thank you. Is that it for you?
I'm technically also on Budget Committee, but I was away for the last meeting, and Trustee Torres was gracious enough to chair that, so I'll let her talk
Okay.
about that.
All right. Trustee DeRose, did you decide what committee you wanted to join?
I'm on the restructuring committee, but we have not had a meeting.
She can't, they can't hear you.
I'm on the restructuring committee, but we have not had a meeting, so we have to figure out when we're going to be meeting.
We had a discussion this morning in advisory on the 2020. We have one issue left to resolve, and then we'll bring the committee together and share it, and then you guys can give us further direction. So we should be ready in about another week or so.
All right, thank you.
Trustee Zamora, do you have any?
That's the same committee.
That's me, okay. Trustee Williams?
Hello, all. Good to see you tonight. Hello to the Mount Vernon community tuning in. First, we'll start with a small committee report from the FACE, Family Community Engagement Committee. We have some numbers rising in our parent university. I sat down last week with Dr. VC, and we see a steady growth in participation. And, it's not outstanding, but it is rising, so we want to celebrate that. Shout out to Columbus School and shout out to Hamilton, who's actually leading the way with parental involvement and just community involvement. So we want to tip our hat to you guys and let you know we are, trying to assist and give you the best support possible.
Can you cite who the parent liaison for those 2 schools are?
Nicole Russo is one of those parent liaisons. Parent liaisons, they have a full day of work. They really don't get a break. They really have a tough load in communicating everything that's going on, and they're doing a really good job. Sidebar, I also coach, volunteer coach for the girls' basketball team, and really quick, we went up to North Rockland this weekend and had a scrimmage, and when we pulled into the campus with the bus, we were immediately greeted by like 16 banners. As soon as you got on, North Rockland Pride, North Rockland, boom, 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 and kind of driving down, I was like, wow, you get pulled in as soon as you drive into campus, and that is something to me that is engagement. You know, it's not direct, but, you know, you feel like a sense of education, you know, and community there. So we want to, you know, that's, like I said, sidebar, but, you know, we're taking notes for other districts as well, and we want to bring back these, you know, different things that actually bring us together. Parent liaisons are also working on an event, December, I don't have the exact date, but it's in December, and it's called Beyond the Badge. Beyond the Badge is an event that the parent liaisons are working together with the SROs and our staff and parents. And, you know, what we're doing is these guys are coming together to create a fabulous night of math. A fabulous night of math. I don't know if I've ever heard it like that. But they're bringing fun, they're bringing family, they're bringing activities, and merging it with math. So I'm really interested to see how, you know, that turns out with the collaboration. Just great collaborative stuff. Math, fun, fitness. The relief, the super spoke about the relief with the Jorge Posada and his family, the wife. They're also doing relief with hurricane funds, hurricane relief, which will be ongoing for the next few months until these places really get up and going. So our liaisons are right involved with that. We have some schools that are already actively taking in items for relief, and then we have some schools that are really looking for some direction. So we want to communicate with them, and like I said, it's going to be an ongoing thing throughout this school year to help out, to pitch in. Last week was also great. MBK had a fabulous event that I attended. My Brother's Keeper did a wonderful event, and the theme was, it was an anti-guns campaign. So we invited in Peter Guns, and, you know, he has a program called Guns Against Guns. And what happened was, so the objective was to pair 100 mentors from Mount Vernon with 100 youth. And it was fabulous. We had mentors that come in, and obviously, I mean, when you come in and you see these mentors, you're like, you're not busy? You don't have, like, you obviously have, you know, so much work on your plate, but it really feels good because, I mean, we just had a nice array of men that come to step. I want to congratulate the mentors who stepped up and who have the heart to step up, and also we want to congratulate the men who never stepped down. There were men there still mentoring, and we shared a story. Brother Muhammad just did a really good job with our workshop, and we shared some personal stories that went back 30 years as far as mentorship. You know, me personally, I've been here for almost 40 years. Did I say that? So the connections are there, and just presenting these type of platforms where we can actually share these stories and strengthen these bonds and continue to give back. My mentors were there, and it's really good because I, you know, hugged them in real passionate hugs, and it's like, you know what, our work isn't done. So that was a great event, and we want to kick that off. We're just starting. The collaboration, we need a total all-out effort, collaborations from all over the place to actually make this a successful venture. And so I'm proud to be a part of that. I love the teacher recognition, you know, with our teachers. That gives them the pride, gives them the sense. Congratulations to our award recipients, Senator Klein, Assemblyman Pretlow, thanks for staying, and former Senator Hassel Thompson, Ruth, also family. So, you know, these type of collaborations are great, you know, with the school system, and Ms. Crump also talked about, you know, public and making sure things are transparent. So these are healthy collaborations. So, you know, it's also exciting to see these people in these type of rooms because we can get the work done together. Shout out to Just Inspire, who's also helping us out with the Parent University. So our Parent Universities now, if you didn't know, Just Inspire is helping out, and now our Parent Universities, which are held on Friday evenings or Saturday mornings, we obviously offer, you know, nutrition, whether it's breakfast or a snack or dinner or something. But now, Parent University offers a running art class and a running gym class at the same time, where parents are coming to get some information just to be better. You know, not to teach you how to teach a child, but just get better. You know, we all have to get better in different ways. So, you know, so it's really exciting. You know, the kids are really going to be pulling parents, say, let's go. They're rolling out the basketballs. They're rolling out, they're pulling, you know, art class. So when I heard that, I said, you know, we're getting there. It's the innovative approach. It's the relations. The parent liaisons are making these relations. They're calling, Happy Thanksgiving. We just don't have the time to do that. We do have the heart, but we have the branches that we're setting up and the collaborations where we have the liaisons to say, listen, we have needs, and we need to talk about it now. So congratulations to you guys. So that's really the short report. Really excited about Parent University. Beyond the Badge is going to be great. And I'm still waiting for Lion King coming up in January over with the Thornton Performing Arts Program. So a lot of great things happening.
I want to make a comment about the banners when you went into North Rockland. And by the way, I was telling you, my brother teaches over at North Rockland, actually just retired, and they called him back in because they didn't have a Spanish and French teacher to replace him. But we've covered that in the Buildings and Grounds and the B&G Committee. When I was on it, we spoke extensively about that, increasing what we called school spirit, okay? That Mount Vernon was lacking in a lot of instances enough, a good level, a high level of school spirit. So one of the things we could do is, you enter the universities, and you always see banners on every light post that has some, maybe either the name of the university or some
Slogan?
What do you call it again?
Mantra?
Yeah, maybe like a mantra or something or something that is geared towards successful saying or whatever. So anyway, the concept was that the school district would be looked at sort of like a university structure, where you would have like the Hamilton campus, the Trapegan campus, the Grimes campus, and these would all be sort of like campuses. And on those campuses, they would each have their banners of the school to increase school spirit. Also, re-energizing the school stores, right? Maybe rebranding them, giving them a facelift, and selling school spirit gear, right? So Trapegan School Spirit Gear, Mount Vernon High School Spirit Gear. Even we kind of actually, Trustee Williams and I were discussing after the most recent elections, to recycle lawn signs from all parties, so it wouldn't be apolitical, right? But for all parties to give back the lawn signs and donate them to the art departments, where now they could just paint over it, and then now the student could they could paint their own artwork on it, and you could put the stakes on, and you could have, let's say, like a field day or a lawn day where you could have them in the driveways of the entrances, so now you could stake them out, the parents could come and they could see all the artwork presented by all the students on something that we're just gonna throw away in the garbage, but especially these things are made of like polystyrene, so a lot of them are, they're highly durable. To throw them back into a landfill is just, it's just terrible, right? So here we could recycle. We have something to use as a platform for art, and now we have a way to display the art in the field, as it's never been done before. I don't know, I've never seen that done before, where kids' artwork are put down along the driveway or in the field, that have an art day. So these are all things to boost up school spirit that I think we need to do more of. And of course, having yearbook clubs and journalism clubs, having a school newspaper or a district-wide newspaper that covers all the schools are other ways to increase school spirit. Yesterday morning, I guess it was, my water heater stopped working. I got in the shower and I realized that the water was cold. And I was like, oh my God, So trying to find a plumber was very difficult. And so I called a friend who gave me a number of a guy who turns out to be, related to someone in the community that everybody knows. But anyway, he came to my house, and so this morning we were changing out the water heater, and then I said, where'd you learn your trade? He's a Mount Vernonite. He goes, I learned at Mount Vernon High School. And I was like, wow. So I want to mention, talking back, because I know we started to get into it a while ago, trying to bring back the construction trades. I know that Dr. Walden is not here. I know that she's been trying to bring back a lot of career and tech stuff in the high school. I know we have the dentistry program that needs to come back.
She's here.
Oh, Thank you. Thank you. So I just want to let you know, I didn't forget you, because I know at one point you're like, hey, Les, what happened? You kind of like dropped the ball on this. I didn't forget you.
Jerry Ward.
Just been a lot of bureaucratic hurdles, but that was impressive.
Trustee Zamora, I think it was Ms. Ward that's the CTE person.
Oh, it's well, Dr. Walden oversees Miss Ward, I believe, right? Correct. Okay, so, the thing is that it's very important for us to bring back the construction trades and other career tech stuff back to the high school. And actually, he got it after he graduated. They had an adult learning at the school, so you continue education, I guess. And he went and worked nights and did that during the day. But the school provided, the structure for him to have something in life now, to be making a living and to be a constructive member of society. I'm in the construction business, and I tell you, finding a good plumber, a good electrician, it's so difficult. So here we have the need in Mount Vernon, where we have so many homes in disrepair, and the reason so is because people just can't afford to pay the high taxes and to fix their homes at the same time. Could you imagine if we had here back in Mount Vernon again, a way where, back when I went to, just a quick sidebar, when I went to college, I was able to get dentistry work done at NYU Dental because they had the apprenticeship, well, I guess the students, were working on you, but of course with supervision from the doctors over there, but you were able to get cheap dentistry done. So can you imagine a system where Mount Vernon, that the residents could call the school, and the school could actually come work on your house with the student and the professor and everything, so now they have, live training, real world training, and yet we're able to give it to the residents at a very cheap price because, this is sort of like in conjunction with learning. Something like that would help the residents out, and it would help the students out, give them a lot of pride for working in their community, and then landing great jobs, because people would be calling Mount Vernon and say, hey, look, give me your top 5 or top 10, top 15 students, because we want them, because I know that they've been doing a lot of extensive training. We got to bring this back.
Okay, Trustee Zamora, let's finish the community reports, then we can come back to...
Okay, no, I'm just wrapping it up.
I know.
So the fact that I had a live example of this in my house today was really inspiring. And it got my juices running again, so I really want to see what I can do to kind of, without writing any checks to anybody, to see what I can do to really push this through.
That sounds like a great idea.
All right.
All right, and Trustee Williams, when do you have your family and community engagement meetings?
So the next phase committee meeting is scheduled for December 4th at 10:30.
So I'm getting a lot of feedback from community members about the board having meetings during the day, and I know that we have meetings during the day because we meet with staff and to talk about stuff. So, and people work and they can't come to the meetings during the day. I know I can't. I'm not available too much during the day. So if we may find some time to have it maybe in the afternoon once in a while, so we can at least tell the community that, so they can come. And we want to be very transparent, right?
Right. No, well, you know what? Evening. So what we plan to do as well is
not just your meetings.
No, well,
for
family,
for,
the FACE committee, the Family and Community Engagement Committee is really important to get out to the community.
Right.
And find time where, we can throw some things around. And, like what we did over the summer.
Right.
So I intend to we intend to do a FACE committee outside of this district. Maybe we did one, I did a speech at, or just a talk at the Dole Center, which is a really central place, theater, set up really nice to, have some clear discussions. So we'll do that. We'll schedule at least one FACE committee every 2 months or so. In the community of choice, we can do the Armory, we can do the Dole Center. We have places that we want to be able to kind of get around and get the input.
Well, and as we've discussed, we're going to make appearances at PTA meetings too, in buildings.
Right, right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Trustee.
It's all right. We also we will be attending the PTA meetings in the various buildings, which is not really an official phase meeting, but we want to get our faces out there and make sure people know we're around, and that if people can't make one of our formal committee meetings, that they have another way to get in touch with us, in addition to emails and phones, et cetera.
Okay. All right, so is that it for you, Trustee Williams?
Yes, that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Trustee McGowan?
The next policy committee meeting will be December 19th at 5 p.m. That's before the board meeting taking place on December 19th, where we'll do a kind of recap of the year. We're still working on the agenda with superintendent, and specifically review what, if any, assistance from NISBA we still need by the end of the year. 5 p.m., I said.
Okay. Trustee Torres?
The Budget Committee met 2 weeks ago. It's
So your mic's off, yeah. There
Okay,
you go.
is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. The Budget Committee met 2 weeks ago. It's still early in the budget process. A request was made to the principals to start preparing and submitting their budgets for 2018-2019. And our next Budget Committee meeting will be held here in the district this Thursday, November 30th at 8 a.m. for those who want to attend.
Thank you.
Madam President, I went to the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting this morning, but I was a little late, and Mr. Policio was there. If he wants to offer a few things to get us up to speed,
Okay,
we could
that's
ask
fine.
him what
That's
what
fine,
went on.
because Trustee White's not here. Is
Yeah,
that
that's a
okay,
good
Dr.
idea.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Policio, would you share a little bit about what went on in the meeting? Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Policio. I'm the superintendent of Buildings and Grounds, and we have multiple things going on in the district as far as the facilities committee and the facilities are concerned. Just a few things in the major end of things. At Graham School, you know that we're putting in a new entrance. Right now, we're doing new brickwork, new sidewalk work. We're progressing on a new vestibule, a bridge. We're doing some work on the new fields that we put in the back. We have some punch list items for the contractor that was there. As we spoke about the pool that's going to open up this Monday. So the pool, as you know, is going to be, the whole pool deck will be redone and cleaned and refurbished. And we also have the locker rooms. The locker rooms are going to give a refresh, new plumbing, new flooring, new lighting. Very excited about that, new doors. We also are going to doing major work at Pennington. This week, we've done most of the footings for the foundation of the new 12-classroom extension that's going on there. We have some asphalt work. Most of that work is the earthwork that we're doing outside. But another exciting thing is we're putting a live time-lapse camera there, so we'll be able to share with the community as this building is built. So we're really looking forward to that as well. Some of the other things that we're doing that are non-bond related is we're doing a flagpole initiative. So throughout the district, each one of the schools has a flagpole. It flies the U.S. ensign, the U.S. flag. Some of them are in disrepair for many years. So we have a new bucket truck. We're able to do this work ourselves now. So we're going to either replace the flagpole, the one that's going to be replaced tomorrow actually will be Rebecca Turner. That's where Trustee Williams' family attends. And we will get them operational. The high school has 3 flags. We'll fly the U.S. flag, the New York State flag, and the school flag. We have a trash can initiative. We're going to put 75 Central Park type trash cans. What I mean by Central Park is they're heavy duty, really, they'll just last for probably longer than anybody in this room, and we're going to put them strategically throughout the district as part of our litter initiative. We are also in the schools replacing the old bubbler water fountains with bottle fill water fountains. The 2 things. One is it gives the children an opportunity to have a bottle of water that they can bring and refill. And what that does is it improves our carbon footprint. It stops those plastic bottles from going into the landfills. And the cool thing about those particular water fountains, it tells you every time you fill a water bottle how many bottles do not make it to the landfill. So that's a really good thing that we're doing there. I'd like to just say we're doing some extensive work at Thornton High School, and I see Principal Sharon Bradley in the audience tonight. I'd like to just tell her that in front of everybody that her patience and her ability to work with us during this really tumultuous time in the school where there's construction going on all over the place, and she's been more than accommodating in every way, and I know at the end of the road, the light will be the light of day, not that train that you think is coming your way, that's for sure. And then at Williams School, we're continuing some major renovations there. We did the playground area, we did some new asphalt, new playground surface, new retaining walls, but the really great thing is we're redoing the cafeteria. Cafeteria is getting a new lighting, new ceiling, new flooring, new painting, some new furniture, a new bathroom in the cafeteria, so it was well overdue, and we are very excited about that. And as far as Trustee Zamora said, school spirit, we are working with a company called Signworks for those type of flagpole banners that he spoke of. We have a place marker in for next year's budget. We're going to try to get some of that stuff going. The clerk of the board, Rick McCormick, is working with me and a vendor to try to get some LED signs informational signs, perhaps at this building and at the high school. So all in all, we are busy in buildings and grounds. We are very, very excited. We're going in a direction that I don't think we've gone in a long time, and I'd like to thank everybody personally for all your patience and indulgence in this. Thank you.
And don't leave yet. I have 3 questions for you. Number one, Rebecca Turney said you're going to be replacing the flagpole. We have capacity, the know-how to replace a flagpole? That means digging it up. That means giving it a foundation. Meaning, does it come in pieces? Is it being built up? Or is it one huge long thing? So what do you mean exactly by replacement? The one that's
So it's a 2-piece flagpole. It's a 35-foot flagpole divided into 2 pieces, and it hinged at the middle. It has the external hayard, it's called, and that's what moves the flag up and down. Donato Construction will be pouring a footing on it and doing the initial foundation for it, and then we'll just erect it with our truck and our men.
Okay, so you're getting some outside help there. And then you mentioned the pool deck is going to be redone. I thought back when I was more on top of this and on the committee, the pool deck was, the tiling of the pool deck was going to remain. So what do you mean by redone?
So if I said redone, I misspoke. The pool deck will be scrubbed and some areas regrouted, and if there's any tile work that needs to be done on the pool deck, we will definitely be addressing that. The pool deck is remaining. We believe that it'll look good by the time we're done with it, and the contractor that we're using has assured us that it will look amazing when it's done.
And the last thing is the water fountains. Are they filtered, each individual one?
Yes, they are. So they're individually filtered at the source. So some of the buildings have some filtration in the basement, at the meter and at the water source at the building. But every one of the bottle fills are individually filtered. And what's good about these is when the filter is expired, there's an indicator light on the water fountain that says the filter is, it gives you a little time. The filter is going, it is gone, replace it. We pop in a new one and get another couple of hundred.
What's I was going to ask, what's the longevity of these filters, and how often is the replacement, and how expensive is that? Is that something that would survive budget cuts?
Well, I can't speak of what's going to survive budget cuts. The filters are somewhere between $50 and $100 each, and we typically in a normal active space, they're lasting in the area of about 6 months. So maybe a couple of $100 a year.
Months?
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. I have one filter in my refrigerator that we replace like at least once a month, especially when the fire department opens up a
hydrant, yeah, they flush a hydrant.
My filter at home is brown, and I have to toss it out, it costs me $40. So I just can't imagine that any of these filters, so that's been your experience, these filters?
Yes, now, I base it on the one that we have here and the one that we have outside of room 150 at the high school. So we've changed it twice in its existence. It's been up about 1 school year now.
Okay, so, and about how many fountains are in a typical building? I mean, let's say, okay, for example, I know the high school has a tremendous.
Yeah, so I would, what we're trying to do, like at Thornton High School, for instance, we're trying to put one in every cafeteria. Trying to put one in the vicinity of all the gyms, wherever that water fountain is existing now. And then in conjunction with the principals, we look for a strategic place that the kids could, with the most flow, without any interruption during the changing of classes. In the elementary schools, it's less important, but in the secondary schools, we want to keep the flow going in between classes. Don't want a big line at the water fountains. So, it's work in progress, trial and error. There's no water fountain experts here, so.
Well, it's money well spent. Is there any type of signage that says that the water is filtered, like that the kids really know? Because in the old days, the water was not filtered, and some kids might be like, oh, it's not filtered, let me just get my bottled water. So how do we let them know, how do we promote that? How do we promote them drinking water versus drinking the sugary, drinks, soft drinks, whatever, that we know promotes all sorts of diseases? So is there any signage that near the fountain that promotes drinking the water, that it is filtered?
So the company that we use for the water fountains is LK. They're the major provider of water fountains. So I will check with them. We do not have any signage at the present time. I will check with them, but if they do not, that's a great idea, and maybe I'll work with you on getting some wording there, and we'll have some custom signs made for each of the water fountain areas.
Maybe through the wellness committee, maybe that's something they could.
Yeah, I'll work with Gary Gregory on that, absolutely. Yep.
I have a question about the pool ribbon cutting ceremony on
Yes, sir.
Monday. I don't know if it's for you or Superintendent. Who gets to swim first?
Well, the superintendent
Assume
said
it's
he
Assemblyman
wanted to,
Petlo.
but
Yes? You're gonna take the
the
first-
assemblyman gave $1 million. I don't know, it's up to the boss, I guess.
Because I expect to see you in a swimsuit on Monday, personally.
I think we'll have some kids do it.
Okay.
Is that it, sir?
That's the next best thing.
Anything else, sir?
That's it, thank you.
But actually, come Monday, correction, the pool will not be ready for swimming on Monday. Yes. So nobody, go ahead.
So nobody's going in on Monday. So Monday, the pool will be ready for the ribbon cutting. We're still about 7 days away of balancing the pH, getting the temperature correct, doing some water testing and stuff like that. So that's going to happen the following week. And then by the time the program is put in place by the aquatic director, I think we'll be ready very shortly after the ribbon cutting.
And do we anticipate programming being ready by January?
So that is a little out of my lane,
You,
so
I know.
I'm going to defer to the superintendent on that.
Yes, programming will be ready. Kids have been identified, and the program has been developed. There's already been a recruitment effort underway.
Thank you, Mr. Policio. That was an excellent report.
Thank you.
Oh, and we'll fix that pothole.
Is he here?
He's here.
I have reports for the Special Education Advisory Council. That meeting was on November 15th. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend. However, we do have a community member that's president of the Special Education Advisory Council, and she attended. The meeting was to discuss homeschool connection, and apparently there was a function at Rebecca Turner, so they had the meeting here in the school district, here in this room, and it was well received. I think people like to have it here. It was more intimate, so we're looking to have our meetings here in the future. Our next meeting is not going to be until January because of the holiday, so more on that later. The Wellness Committee's next meeting is going to be at 5 o'clock on December 5th, right before the next board meeting. And that's it for committee meetings. Committee reports. Now we can accept the minutes.
Yes. Yes.
Minutes for November 7th, 2017. Motion?
Motion.
Trustee McGowan? Trustee Jaros? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
I didn't even say anything. Motion.
Yes.
Minutes for
10-6.
10/17/17. Motion?
Motion Russo. Second, Mr. Williams. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Trustee Zamora abstains. Motion carries.
All right. Motion to enter an executive session for reasons of,
Discussing pending litigation with the pilot matter, employee matter involving a discipline issue, negotiations regarding property acquisitions, and
Legal advice. Legal advice.
and legal advice from legal counsel in a special education matter.
how long do you think?
An hour.
An hour? We'll be back at 10 o'clock.
Motion?
So moved.
Trustee Torres?
Second.
Trustee Saunders, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. The board stands recessed in executive session.
To public?
One second. Let me start back up. All right, go ahead. We have a motion to reconvene.
Motion to reconvene, public?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Trustee McOwen is not at the table. Is he around?
He's here. He's,
Okay.
Just wait for him to come back.
Do you want to start with, see if there's anything that needs to be pulled?
Well, I didn't know if Mike and him have had anything.
We have 5.
Okay. Now's the opportunity for any board members to pull any items from the consent agenda.
Sure thing. So, item 8.14, if the numbers are still the same, manhood program.
8.14?
Item 9.10, committee on special education.
Which one? I'm sorry, Mr. Zamora.
I believe it's
9.1,
9.10.
9.10.
Special education.
Yep.
Same the titles as well, because sometimes the numbers change.
Yep.
11.2, Pearl River Plumbing.
Got it.
11.3, Nyram Construction at Thornton. 11.14, Galtol Construction at Graham. And then you have 13.1, 2, and 4, which are all general releases and hearings. And those, I'm not going to be voting on because I wasn't part of the discussion, so I don't really know much about it, so I want to vote that separately. And
So one of those was, excuse me, 13.4, the one with the two numbers was pulled for the December 5th meeting. It was moved for the December 5th meeting.
those are scratched?
Only only the one that had two numbers. Yep.
Okay, got it.
Weren't those the ones we just talked about?
13.1, the set of employee number 1491 should have been discussed,
Yeah.
and employee number 2014 should have also been discussed.
Correct.
And there was a third one that was in reference to a special education matter that I was,
Were those the first discussions on 13.1 and 13.2?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were never discussed before?
No, tonight was the first night we discussed them.
Okay, all right, then that's fine. So I'll leave those alone, though. You can put those back.
13, 13, what about 4?
that's not,
You said that's been
That was
pulled.
removed.
removed. It's been moved to December 5th.
Refresh.
Okay, so that's 5 items.
Let me just go 11.4, 11.3, 11.2,
9.1.
9.10, and 8.14.
Do you have 8.14?
Yep.
That's, that, you just said that. That was on my list. Okay.
You wanted to pull it or you wanted to
Want
discuss
to pull it? To discuss, yeah.
All right, anybody else? So we can discuss them before we vote.
Well, let's do the
think you
consent.
wanted-
Yeah.
All right, we'll motion to approve consent agenda?
Motion.
Trustee McOwen,
Second.
trustee Saunders. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. So the first one, consent.
8.14?
Yes.
Mr. Zamore, 8.14?
Yes, I just want to have a discussion on that in terms of what's the objective, what's the proposed enrollment. I see that there's 2 teachers there for a couple hours a day.
One teacher. I had the same question. Yeah, one teacher and a security guard.
Excuse me.
So maybe the superintendent can speak to the objective of this particular program. I mean, I read the summary of it, but what do we expect to achieve from it? Or is it, I mean, it just seems,
It's,
how's your interest in this particular program right now from the student body? And what grades does it entail?
It's
Is
at-
this the high school level?
And what's the
No,
scope? And
it's
yeah, we asked.
25
Yeah.
students that have been identified at Benjamin Turner. It is a male mentoring program. It is a model, it's a mentoring program that is extracted from the MBK initiative. It's an earlier version of the MBK initiative. And this was a program that was put together in collaboration with the building principal to provide youngsters who have been identified as needing a male mentor. And it stems from the MBK initiative, but it also mirrors a program that was previously in place at Parker School, which was the Young Gentlemen's Club that they started there about it was in place when I got here, so it was about 3 or 4 years ago at this point. But there are 25 students who have already been identified who will be attending this program. It's an after-school program.
You said identified, did they agree to participate, or you identified them and persuaded them to attend? I mean,
I'm not entirely sure how the principal selected them. I surmise that these are youngsters who have either had some difficulties with socialization, young men who have had some difficulty with socialization, and this program is designed to help build those relationships and to address the issues associated with members, kids who may be affiliated with gangs, young men who may be affiliated with gangs.
the one that you mentioned before, I guess you said was at Parker?
Yes.
Have we tracked that? Do we know of any benefits of that program to the people, the kids who attend? How about the attendance rate? Is it pretty much the same as it started? Has it dropped off?
Well, they were younger kids in that program. Those kids were probably 3rd through 5th graders that were in that program at the time. The gentleman who ran that program is no longer in our employ, so the program doesn't exist right now. But on 3 occasions, I attended the program just to observe and see what was going on. Boys were dressed in ties. They were being taught on how to greet one another, how to address, how to ask questions, how to be very mannerable as young men. Those are basic manners kinds of things that the boys were being taught. So can you measure that? I don't know that you can measure that, but I do know that the program at Parker School seemed to have a positive impact on these young men who were identified as kids who were presenting several problems, behavioral issues.
What's the background of the teacher who's holding this class?
That I do not know. I do not know how these 2 individuals were selected.
Right, I mean.
Show some.
Just, what subject matter, what gives them some type of expertise in behavioral or social sort of like leadership? I don't know.
Well, I have the confidence in the principal that he would not ordain or recommend a program that he did not think would be successful. I mean, he is a very thoughtful and deliberative leader, is well-researched. So I have no reason to think that he has not vetted this with sound research. I could ask how these people were identified. I would imagine that these individuals either came to him with the idea, or he went to them and suggested that they facilitate this based on their relationship with the youngsters.
This is it's funded through Title I?
Yeah, through Title
It is Title I funds, correct.
My question is, what is the curriculum? Or is this just like, is this like a discussion group? Is this anything being actually taught? Or is it more like, are they
Well,
going
it
to do
starts with
things? I just don't
homework.
understand like what they're going to do for 2 hours every day.
It starts with homework help.
Okay.
That's number one.
So
So
tutoring, yeah.
there is tutorial help provided. And then it actually lists the programs and activities that the program attempts to do, looking specifically at debate, mock trial, resume training, job interviewing, guest speakers coming in, community service, college fairs, sports activity, fitness, self-defense. So all the items that the club is designed to address are listed.
But obviously, this one teacher isn't an expert in self-defense and cooking and debate and everything.
And that's probably where the guest speakers come
Right.
in.
Okay.
Teachers, it says teacher.
It's a TA and as a security officer, yes.
So a TA is going to be doing this?
Yes, a TA is doing this and a security officer. And that was the same makeup at Parker, actually. It wasn't a teacher, and I think about it was a TA, if I'm not mistaken.
And they just bring in like new people every week or whatever? Is that the idea?
Yes.
To do, yeah.
It seems
Guest
like
stuff.
a dream program, I
Yeah.
would say. So, I wish it much success, and should it show some success, I hope we could roll it out and implement it in all the schools. I mean, it almost seems too good to be true, just kind of like based on the framework that I see here. But you know what? You have to start somewhere. So I'm good.
Okay, so we're going to vote on this separately, or you want to vote on this now?
Yeah, we have to vote, yeah.
No, as we go along.
Yeah.
Are we going to-
Motion?
Motion.
Trustee
Second.
Zamora, seconded by trustee McOwen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. 9.10, approval of Committee on Special Education, IEP recommendations, Committee on Preschool Education, CPSC, IEP recommendations, and Section 504, Plan accommodations.
All right, well, I kind of read through this, and I'd love some clarity on it, and just a run through maybe by Ms. Gayon or someone.
Mrs. Gayon?
All right. Give it up.
Handle going up and down like that? Do you, can you pull it up? Go to the menu I showed you the first time. And then go down, scroll up to 9.10.
He has it on the,
Down,
But you can't-
it's the very bottom of that category, right there.
But she cannot click on the attachments and show the public. Those are
Yeah.
executive session only.
I guess you can get a feel of what she's.
Yeah, she probably won't need the attachments.
Yeah.
She should reckon.
This is just the.
So if we start with the first attachment, are we there?
We can't open
Can't
this.
open
Can't
the
open the
attachments.
attachments publicly.
Confidential.
Oh,
Not public.
so
Just
do you want me
speak
to
on.
speak? How do
Just,
you?
just explain.
Yeah, these are the IEP,
These-
approval lists. So we all-
It's just the program, or
So,
No, these are,
so basically, the first attachment, which you can open, speaks to the CPSC, the Committee on Preschool Special Education, and it speaks to the recommendations that the committee made for different students. I don't know if I can discuss what those recommendations are.
I didn't think these were specifics. The way I read it, it seemed as if it was, is it for the recommendation? Right, no, I thought it was something
So,
more general than that.
This is on the board agenda every
I
month.
didn't realize the specific IEPs. I thought this was sort of like, all right, so if that's all it is, we can move on, because
Right,
I
that's-
read it differently.
Yeah, that's what each of these, but I'd like to explain that it's the CPSC, the CSE, and the Section 504. So that's why you have three different tabs.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
We're good?
So that's fine. And I'll tell you how I read it, if I could pull it up here, but I don't want to slow down the process, so we could go ahead and vote on it.
All right.
Motion.
Trustee McGowan?
Second.
Trustee Saunders? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
11.2.
Approves Pearl River Plumbing and Heating doing business as Bertucci's change order number 3 for Mount Vernon High School EPC supplemental work.
Okay, so based on the past few meetings I've been involved in regarding buildings and grounds since I stepped off the committee, is that, and also since a community member really upset about some monies that were spent on a particular project, I figured that in an effort to be clear and transparent, especially in the area of buildings and grounds where we do spend a lot of money, that these things are explained by the administration, and so that everyone could be knowledgeable about the expenditures and also the process. So this one being that it is part of the number one, that it's a change order. Number two, that it is Rick, could you read that back again?
Sure. The resolution?
Yeah,
11.2.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, this Board of Education approves Pearl River Plumbing and Heating doing business as Bertucci's for change order number 3 for the Mount Vernon High School EPC supplemental work.
That's the EPC supplemental. So EPC supplemental was something that I was under the impression in the beginning that was part of the EPC, being paid through by the EPC, but EPC supplemental, come to find out much later on, after we spent, I don't know, maybe to the tune of $9 million on Hamilton, Trapphagen, and and Davis, that EPC supplemental was actually being paid out of the bond. So, so maybe someone could explain, number one, what makes this EPC supplemental? It's being paid out of the bond, and maybe just as to generally what that change order is for.
Okay, so every change order that's on the agendas now, actually this one doesn't, but the other two we will, everything has a cover sheet from Savin showing what they're recommending. So this one is just a credit for $2,000. So it's a reduction of the allowance because we weren't spending the money. The EPC supplemental was a work in addition to the energy performance contract that could not be done or that had to be done as a result of findings. So this one is just a credit of $2,000 for money not used that had been anticipated to be used. So if you Brian, could you open up number 2, please? So if you look at, if you just click where it says the opening of it, you can, I don't know what.
11.2.
Yeah, so go down and click open a little bit further down, Brian.
Right
Yeah,
there.
just, no, go down, right, just a little bit down, right there, click that, okay? So if you all saw that, you can open that on every single change order now. And on this one, we didn't do it because it was a credit. But on all the others, you'll see why we're spending it and how it relates to the total project. So you can see on this one, $339,000 was the project. We're at a total now of $342,000, including this credit. And so this is change order number 3. Change orders 1 and 2 increased it by $5,000. This decreased it by $2,000. So this is just a simple allowance. And we move on to number 3.
We need to vote on number 2 first.
All right.
Yeah, just a question about number 2, and help me understand better the EPC supplemental process. How do we determine which projects become EPC? I'm sorry. Okay, so if it's associated with the EPC work, it's EPC, I guess, supplemental. But how do we deem that that money comes out of the bond versus capital projects, let's say your budget? And number 2, here, as we're trying to, figure out our budgeting for the bond, how do we know more work is not going to be coming out of the bond for EPC supplemental work that we never really budgeted
Well,
for in the bond?
the EPC supplemental is finished. There's no more projects regarding that in any way that will happen. So everything is now accounted for. The only things that there might be are change orders along the way on any of the projects that we're doing from the bond, such as what we will see with NIRAM and Dubtull in the next two change orders. There are no more,
Through EPC supplemental.
say it again.
But it won't be through EPC supplemental.
That's correct. There's no more EPC supplemental.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion.
All right, motion?
Do I have a second? Second. Trustee Russo.
Brian, can you open up number 3,
All those in
please?
favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Okay, on number 3, I'll ask you to do the same thing. Brian's doing that there. And you can see on number 3, there's a Savin recommendation. This is because we discovered pipe insulation with asbestos during the work. And every change order where there's an increase has a recommendation by Savin and detail of what it is. You can look at the screens or look at your own screen. And so this was discovered condition. There's no other options. It has to be removed. It's a $16,000 increase. And if you continue to scroll down, you can see that the entire project is $8,347,000. This is $16,000 on $8,347,000 for the removal of asbestos that was discovered. So you wouldn't know this until you open up the walls.
And NIRAM's currently the subcontractor or
The GC.
or he's the GC over at Thornton.
Yes, sir.
That answers your question?
Yes.
Motion?
I move.
Motion?
I do.
Fine.
Motion.
Trustee Russo, second.
Second.
Trustee oh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Opposed?
Too creative, I guess. Nice motions.
Abstain? Trustee Zamora abstains.
I said yes, sorry. I was-
Brian, if you'd open up number 4, please. So this is for Dubtull. This is at Graham Elementary School. This was, again, if you look at Savin's report on this, just wait till it comes up. So this is Savin's report on it. It's a $27,000 change order. This project is $2.3 million, $27,000 on that. This is change order number 2. Before that, there was only a credit of $2,000. And I did report to Mr. McGowan a little bit incorrectly earlier in that I said it was 0.5%. It's a 0.5% based on the entire project, but 1% based on this contractor's work. So this was not intended to be done. They had to take apart this walkway. They discovered that it was not safe underneath, and they had to replace it with, replace the walkway and the bluestone, and you can see exactly what is being said by Savin in here.
I'm having trouble opening it, but,
Well, you can look at the screen right behind you.
okay.
So the demo of the stairway and the landing was not intended to be done completely, and they had to put in a new walkway and bluestone. And you can see in the justification part, which now is in every change order, did not call for the complete replacement, but they discovered that it was compromised in need of a full replacement. Impact was it wasted 7 days, and there was no choices here.
Now, this is at Graham, what location exactly?
And this was discussed this morning in the Facilities Committee meeting as well. Oh,
In a previous.
oh, okay.
I think you were there last. This is when the bluestone, we had to make a decision whether we were going to change the rest of the bluestone that was already there. Were we going to use existing, or were we going to change to the new stuff? Yeah.
No, the conversation regarding bluestone that I recall in one of the capital projects meeting was whether we're going to use bluestone or stamped concrete over at Thornton.
That was
Yeah.
also
But I don't remember this conversation, so just walk me through this if I don't know where Graham is this. I mean, I know I have a thorough knowledge of Graham, so, and this is at the front entrance where they're doing the bridge?
Yes.
So the bluestone was where exactly? 'Cause I don't know if there may be any bluestone in that area. The only bluestone was in the pathways to like the music room, further to the south. There are 2 pathways leading to rooms over there, and,
But remember, they had not intended for this to be removed, so maybe nobody really paid much attention to it, but When they were trying to repair this, they discovered that it was not safe underneath and had to be replaced.
Right, so could you just tell me what exactly is this location of this bluestone that they replaced or that they repaired?
I do not know the exact location of it, so I can get back to you on that.
Okay, I mean, it's just because having pretty good knowledge of that school and the front entrance there, they're working on the sidewalk. I know all the sidewalks pretty much concrete. They're building the bridge. It's all new construction. The lower level is all pretty much concrete. The stairs are not bluestone. I know that. So I'm just wondering where this bluestone's coming from, unless they're working already,
Okay, so
already on the southern path.
if you read a little bit further down from Savin's, maybe you can scroll down, it says to upgrade the existing exterior pathwalk from Bedford Avenue to Stair K entrance as per, well, it refers to some drawings.
That's rail guards.
So this was not,
Let me ask you a question. In the
This is-
facilities committee, don't you guys review these recommendations and kind of like walk the side or understand, at least have some type of understanding as to the work being performed rather than just present it for the board for approval? I mean, you guys are part of the stopgap, right? The facilities subcommittee. So when the board has questions, you guys are, I mean, Savin's not coming here every night. The architects are not coming here every night. So who knows and who can explain to us?
this is reviewed by Savin. It's then reviewed by our representative from Savin, Kevin. It's then presented to the superintendent for his approval before it goes on any
I
agenda.
understand the financial part and the agenda part, but I'm saying this is something that should be, there should be a committee either through the bond that we're discussing it and we know the exact location. And obviously this hasn't come up because it didn't come up in the bond when I was there. Now, I did miss a meeting. I was in Paris or something. Why don't we know the specific location of this? I mean, we know pretty much everything. We go through these things pretty thoroughly.
So I did a walkthrough at Graham the other day, and I just called Peter, and he refreshed my memory. When we're looking straight at the new opening, to the left, there's a plywood piece of pathway that's where they found the compromised bluestone, and that's where it has to be replaced. So if you're looking on the Bedford side, you're looking at the new entrance, it's to the left. There's a pathway that,
The lower level.
yes.
So that what the kids use as a playground, that area, there was a plywood pathway.
Well, no, the plywood is now covering the compromised stone.
So you're saying the entire lower level was all bluestone?
Not the entire lower level, this portion of it where they, when they were doing the work, they found the compromised stone.
Okay, so anyway, since I don't understand it, thank you, gentlemen. Since I don't understand it, I will not be voting on it, but I suggest that these things come up in your subcommittees or at least in the bond projects, and we discuss it more thoroughly so that someone could present it more knowledgeably to the board.
Okay, might I make a suggestion? Maybe you could take a picture, and put it alongside with other documents of places where there might be some questions.
Sure.
That would
There
be,
were
that would
pictures
be
in
good.
the confidential of the work at Graham. Was it shown in those pictures
I don't think it
from 10 days ago?
I
Or
don't think it shows this. But
9
that's a
days
good
ago?
idea.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much.
Aren't you in the construction meetings on Tuesdays,
Do you remember them talking about this?
talking about it?
No, I don't really remember. I
Okay.
might not have been there. I sometimes get there a little bit late.
All right, so we ready to vote on that? 11.4,
Motion?
second?
I can't.
Oh, like, ready to go?
It's late.
11 o'clock.
Motion. Trustee Russo. Second?
I said second.
I know, but I made them.
You got a second.
Ms. Torres, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, yes.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
Trustee Zamor and Trustee Jaros abstain. Motion still carries. That's it.
Okay, next one
No,
is, that's it?
Yep, he put the others back
We
on.
took- oh, Thank you. All right,
Unfinished business.
any unfinished business?
I just want to mention one thing. Dr. Hamilton, you mentioned earlier in the committee reports about the 2020 bond process, and specifically when Trustee Dross was asked about it's very late, I'm tired, the reconstruction, is that what we're calling it, subcommittee?
Restructuring.
Restructuring, that's, thank you,
Restructuring
restructuring. Can you just refresh my memory of kind of like what's your overall time frame in terms of implementation with the high schools? And, because I know we're talking now about rolling out 7th grade and 8th grade, and I just want to make sure I understand kind of the rollout.
We're planning, though, orientations for the 3 high schools to be presented to all of our elementary schools in January, I believe that is. And the challenge that we have right now is Thornton's readiness and the
When you say readiness, in terms of what exactly?
Construction.
Okay.
And moving the performing arts kids over into the building with the existing Thornton students. That's the challenge that we have in terms of numbers. So we're trying to see how many of those classrooms will be ready and having a backup plan in the event that construction is delayed. And that's what we're doing for each of the projects, having a plan B in the event that construction is delayed. So that's where we are. We resolved the other issue, what we think are potential issues in the other buildings. And they may not be issues at all, but at Thornton, we don't have the plan B. That's what we're working on. Once we resolve the plan B, then that's when we'll ask the committee to convene, and we'll roll out the full plan to the committee, and then ask the committee to either co-sign it or pose more questions or take us back to the drawing board, et cetera.
Right. Because one aspect of that, which we have talked about on the FACE committee, is naming of buildings, which I just want to, this is unfinished business, so I just want to put it out there. We still need to talk about it.
Yep.
We tried to have, coordinate a meeting a couple of weeks ago, right, with some of the stakeholders, but it was very hard to get people's schedules together. I wasn't in town, but you said it was too hard to get. So we're going to try again to get some of the stakeholders for some of these buildings to talk about that issue, but we haven't yet.
So you're going to do, you're going to talk about the stakeholders, all buildings, or just one particular in particular?
No, just the couple that have changed names multiple times over the last, 10 years or less.
You know what, if you would share with me which buildings you want to talk about specifically.
Yeah.
Then maybe I could help convene people who may have knowledge for you, so you know who your audience,
That's right.
at least who should be on that conversation.
Yeah, and I thought we had, but we'll have that conversation again and with some of the other administrators. And this is just a conversation at this point.
Gotcha.
And then at some point, we'll actually have a real conversation with the public and about the issue. But right now, it's just taking a temperature, right? That's all I have.
So, any other business?
New business now.
Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Trustee Zamore, second.
Second.
Trustee Torres, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Everyone have a good evening.
Stayed,
Thank
motion
you.
carries.
Thank you for staying.
Happy Thanksgiving.